We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
And welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. Time to talk AFC East.
Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills. Miami Dolphins.
And I always actually forget that other teams, when I'm like going through this, I'm like, oh yeah, Patriots and Jets. Okay.
Patriots owned the division for so long, and now they almost feel forgotten about, but they got something building over there in New England.
And tonight, to talk about the Bills, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Prohaska here to join us. Did I pronounce Prohaska right there? I remember we talked about it a little last year. Did I get that?
You nailed it. Well done. I'm very proud.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
First time returning guest.
Yeah, our first returning guest. We usually rotate guys around, but I reached out to you and I was like, I don't want to ask too much of you, but like if you're willing to, we'd love to have you again. If not, I'd love to suggest you. Said, yeah, I'm down, so let's do it. But we're talking Bills here. We got two Bills fans on the show tonight.
Lifelong.
Anthony and Jay.
Lifelong. I love that.
And man, Anthony, just overall, like this offseason, how are you feeling about what the Bills have done? How have they filled any holes that they had, or do you think that they need to do a little more in certain areas?
Overall, I'm okay with what they've done. I think they made a concerted effort to address the needs that this roster had. I have some questions on the specific players or the body types or the skill sets that they went with in addressing those positions of need or areas of need. But no one's perfect. I think on the whole, again, they had a concerted effort. They had a plan. They had a roadmap for this offseason. I think they navigated it pretty well. We'll see, what Joey Bosa turns into for them. I'm sure at some point we'll talk about him here, but I think they've hung their hats on a couple of players that I don't know if those guys are hat worthy in terms of hanging your hat on from a consistency standpoint or reliability standpoint. But on the whole, I think this is a good team. It's a good roster. I think they're well coached and they've got a tremendous offensive line. They've got a tremendous run game. They've proven the ability to be able to take the ball away consistently on the defensive side of the ball year after year. No jinx. Fingers crossed on that. And yeah, I think they're built to make another deep run into the playoffs in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm excited about this team. We talked about this a little bit in our Chiefs episode and some in our Ravens episode, where I'm kind of at the standpoint where I'm sitting here going, I feel like the Chiefs are vulnerable right now.
I agree.
And this is the moment. Like last year, I wasn't sure if the Bills get over that hump or the Ravens get over that hump. This year, I feel like one of those two teams is going to capitalize and win the AFC. And I'm rooting for the Bills. I want it to be the Bills personally, just because Josh Allen is football, and I can't root against that. But when you're talking about the way that they took a roadmap this offseason and tried to, I guess, buy into certain players that maybe there are more questions on, is that in the wide receiver room? Is that what you're thinking, or are you thinking someplace else?
So defensively, it's a bit with Bosa. I think the wide receiver room, a little bit of that as well. Not as much as Bosa, just because he's a wild card in terms of injury, and then he already got banged up this offseason, kind of furthering that notion. But yeah, I think this wide receiver room, even though Amari Cooper wasn't the Amari Cooper that a lot of fans thought the Bills were going to get, his presence and his skill set did alleviate some things for this offense. It did open some things up. As teams started to realize before his arrival, teams started to just go, you know what, if we have athletic corners or good corners, we're just going to play single high and we're going to load the box because we don't think you have anybody on the outside that can threaten us vertical or beat us one-on-one on the outside. Palmer, I think, is a move towards being able to win one-on-one. Good release package, good in the underneath, good in the intermediate. Really good deception in his routes. I think he can win some one-on-one matchups. He can also get vertical a bit. I don't think he's a burner and as much of a deep threat as a lot of fans are making him out to be, or as much as some of the numbers say that he is. But he can win vertical because of deception in his routes and being able to sell underneath and then getting on top of guys. But I think between him and then the addition of Elijah Moore, is interesting. And you're trying to round out this room that is led by Khalil Shakir, who had a tremendous year last year. But then, does Keon Coleman take a jump? If not, is Josh Palmer enough? If not, does Elijah Moore help? Okay, if not, are you hoping someone else kind of takes a step or a jump a little bit? I also think they're going to miss Mac Hollins, a bit of an underrated receiver piece, but also just a tremendous do-it-all blocker. I don't think you replace a guy like that because of how good he was in that role. So kind of the money ball aspect, like you replace him in the aggregate. How do you do that? Is it formationally? Is it schematically? Is it with a combination of receivers? Is it, asking a little bit more of Dalton Kincaid as a blocker, or maybe Jackson Hawes, or maybe Keon Coleman's ready to step up into that physical type of role that Mac Hollins entered? I think, to your point, to that original question, I think they did have a plan at wide receiver. I just think there's still more unknowns in the room than you would like. I respect their notion of kind of building out the basketball lineup at receiver, but I do think there's a good handful of questions in terms of knowing what you're going to get from this group, and we're really not going to know until like mid-year once everything starts to flesh out.
And how are Bills fans feeling about Keon Coleman after his rookie year?
It really is, I think, like two ends of the spectrum. I think you get a chunk of fans that, and I'll say this too, like I thought it was more positive. I thought people would be pleasantly surprised. He had a bunch of really nice contested catches where he dunked on dudes, and then he got hurt. And I thought the combination of those two things would kind of not give him a pass, but people will be like, okay, like encouraged more, especially knowing how raw he was coming out of Florida State and he needed time on task and all that. And I've kind of realized over the last couple of months that it at best, I think it's 50-50. I think more people are skewed towards the negative. I think there's a lot of fans that are out on Keon Coleman and think he's a bust and he was a horrible pick. Everybody is just waiting. Anytime Xavier Worthy makes any catch, Bills fans are ready just to be like, see, should have taken Xavier Worthy.
He can't even catch the ball in bounds.
Yeah, he's got to keep his feet in bounds first for it to matter.
Yeah, Mahomes also has to hit him. He had a couple of opportunities too where Mahomes just could not connect with him earlier in the year. But yeah, fans are, or anytime Xavier Legette does anything good, fans are ready to jump down the Bills' throat for that. I think the shine of like his charisma and his personality and the athleticism is worn off a bit. I think he's kind of shaded negatively by most fans in the fan base right now, and which again to me is a little crazy. Like if you thought Keon Coleman was going to be something tangible after year one, I just think that wasn't what you were getting. Like we're not going to know what Keon Coleman is until midway through year three, in my estimation, because he's so raw, because he needs so much development. This is a guy that you take and you're in for the long haul and the upside, not for the short term turnaround and return on investment in year one or necessarily even in year two. But yeah, so I was talking about this with somebody else or just over the past couple of months, how I've kind of noticed more and more, like I would just post something on a different receipt. Oh, like I posted a breakdown of Ladd McConkey. And I just had so many Bills fans that came in and were like, man, he's awesome. Keon Coleman sucks. And it was just like that over and over again.
Ladd McConkey is probably already the best version of himself.
But that's a great point. Like you knew what you were getting with Ladd McConkey. He was a professional route runner immediately coming out of Georgia. I saw him live and in person at the Senior Bowl, and he was just routing everyone up left and right. Like him and Ricky Pearsall. Like Ricky Pearsall would have had a great time to shine if he didn't get shot in the preseason last year. But him and bit of a different
this year.
Yeah, we'll see this year. Like different kinds of wide receivers and how they operate, but both those dudes were just such professional route runners and workers at their release, in the stem, on the break. But yeah, exactly. Like Ladd, I don't know if Ladd's upside is really more than what it was this year. And that could be fine because his floor is super high. Keon Coleman was the opposite, a much lower floor, but I think a significantly higher ceiling with what he can be. And you got to let those dudes breathe for a little bit before you make a final judgment.
Yeah, McConkey. Too bad he doesn't have like a top 30 quarterback.
Oh, Justin Herbert. Is that sarcasm or seriousness?
For Jay, that's serious. Number
you
one,
don't think you don't like Herbert
on earth.
What?
Not Justin Herbert.
Wow. Wait, so but like, do you like? Sincerely, where do you rank him? Is he like a top 20, or is he like he's
I
he's
put
the
him.
bottom half of the league QB?
I put him probably on the other side of like the Dak Prescott range, which is usually around 12 to 13. So probably in that 14 range.
Okay, that's not for someone who's down on him. That's not too crazy. I don't think that's too crazy.
I mean, it's just the biggest argument. If he's good, then why isn't he good?
Yeah, I think I think Herbert and Trevor Lawrence are both reaching a stage where, like, I don't know, like they've become so polarizing for folks. And Herbert, like, I understand Lawrence more than Herbert, but I also do understand Herbert because of exactly what you said there. Like, if he's so good, how come he's not good?
Yeah. Like, and we just got eaten alive a couple of years ago because I was like, I basically said that, and so since then I've just took a hard stance, just the number one Justin Herbert hater.
Stick to your ground, stand on your principles. I like it.
But looking at this team, or what were you going to say, Q?
I was just going to move on to probably quarterback. Honestly, we got to talk Josh Allen like before we get too deep into this, right? Like you have to. Yeah,
and they got your guy backing him up, the savior for Chicago.
Biscuits.
Yeah, people forget
Biden his time.
People forget he was drafted before Patrick Mahomes in that draft. Never gets talked about.
But
that's right.
The Josh Allen conversation, I mean, like, I don't think there's that much conversation to even be had at this point because it's just pretty universally consensus, right? He's a top 3 quarterback. It's him, Mahomes, Lamar, and it's like, what order you want to put him in? But so I'm not sure how much there's to even ask about this as much as just like, can he
stay healthy?
Can he get this team to a Super Bowl with this roster, you think?
Yeah, I think he can. I think the biggest question really comes down to the defense in terms of what they are and in terms of what they can be. But you look at how the offense is constructed, and I think it's twofold with the offense, right? Josh Allen is obviously a very good quarterback and a very good player in the NFL. But for as much as he is the face of this organization and the current and reigning and defending NFL MVP, this team on offense runs through the run game. Like the run game is what starts the offense and what stirs the drink. It's the offensive line, it's jumbo packages, it's condensed formations and reduced formational width. Like it's the run game. They're not this, I think you see Josh Allen in the highlights and then know he's the MVP. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think, oh, okay, they probably like spread the ball out. He's chucking it like 40 times a game. And it's not. They're trying to have him throw the ball like 25, maybe 30 times at most. Like they run through this offense schematically through the run game and schematically in general. And I think that's what makes the offense so dangerous is they have a really good offensive line from a run game diversity. Yeah.
Offensive line loves running the football.
Bro, they love it. And they're good at it. And they're diverse. Like you can run zone, you can run multiple gap or man schemes. Like they have 3 that they hang their hat on, like mid-zone weak, duo, and then all the tackle pull stuff like dart and then long trap. But they can also work in like some counter and some power, traditional gap scheme stuff. Then they're starting to work in like different motions towards the end of the year. They can do it out of different personnel groupings, out of different alignments. You can go condensed, you can go spread. They just have so many ways to beat you on the ground. And then on top of that, Josh Allen is the trigger man and the talisman for this offense, which I think those two things all combined with one another and the various levels for those two things is really what makes this team so dangerous. And then it just comes down to, can you mitigate some of the deficiencies you had defensively and not rely so much on turnovers? Can you get pressure consistently? Can you get offenses off the field without having it to be turnover based or trying to hold teams to a field goal? Can you mitigate displacement against the run and kind of go from there? But yeah, I do think overall as a team, they're built to get there, and Allen and how he's and the ecosystem that he's in offensively, it's a really good mix. No jinx, as I'm very superstitious.
And I mean, transitioning that really nicely over to the O line, like Aaron Cromer did an episode with Brandon Thorne recently that was really insightful and really outstanding. And like one of the things he mentioned in there was like, look, we're not going to go ask Osiris Torrance to go pull around in a gap run. We're just going to pull. We got these two super athletic tackles.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make it work for our guys. We're not going to try to fit them in a box here. And I thought that was so refreshing to kind of hear, especially as someone who watches a lot of O-line tape and sees some O-line coaches or run game coordinators really trying to peg players who don't fit in a run scheme into a run scheme. So, I mean, I think you guys have done an outstanding job with the O-line here and the coaching and the way that it's all comes together. But a guy who I need to talk about, I've been itching to talk about, Spencer Brown. I love Spencer Brown. Might be my favorite player in the NFL right now.
Wow.
No, I love watching this dude's tape. Like it's not always the cleanest, but like I'm not sure anyone dominates athletically and physically in the way he does outside of like maybe a Lane Johnson or a Trent Williams with the way they win. I'm saying, but like he's just so impressive to me. And can you talk a little about his growth? Because he came in such a raw player with you guys.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I feel like what I'm about to say, I feel like I've said so many times over the years. So he didn't even play like regular 11-on-11 football in high school. He was playing like 8-man football in Iowa. Then he goes to the University of Northern Iowa, which isn't some big football power. Then he opts out of the COVID year. So he's really just this athletic specimen that's like an offensive lineman, but he doesn't have a lot of time on task. He needs all this development. And then early on in the NFL, he's getting banged up each year. And it was to the point that a couple of years ago, I wasn't completely out on him. I thought he could still hit that ceiling and the trajectory was there. But we just, between the injuries and then how messy he was from a technique standpoint, his punch timing, his footwork, he would get beat within a second and a half. And it was just this roller coaster. One rep, you would be like, oh, wow, that was amazing. And then the next rep, you'd be like, oh, wow, that was terrible. He got beat in like a quarter of a second. And I tell you to the point, I was all in. I didn't think he was going to fall to him, but I wanted the Bills to get Darnell Wright so bad, who ended up going to the Bears. I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl. I loved his tape, right tackle. I was like, give me that. And Spencer Brown has been able to stay healthy the past couple of years, and Cromer's really tapped into him more. And yeah, his ascension has been awesome to watch. You're seeing the technique be paired with the athleticism. And Cromer and Brady do a great job. You know, you alluded to that interview that Cromer did with Thorne. They do a great job of setting their offensive linemen up for success. You know, David Edwards isn't some athletic marvel at left guard. Osiris Torrance is a thumper and a people mover, not an athletic specimen at right guard. So why bother pulling? That's why they don't run a ton of traditional like power or counter, because you don't want to pull your guards. So let's pull our two really athletic, really physical tackles. Who Deion Dawkins is no slouch, but it's led by Spencer Brown, who is legitimately one of the best athletes in all of football, and he's got the nastiness and physicality to match. Yeah, he's really just developed the snatch trap that he has in pass protection, the independent hand usage, his punch timing, his punch precision and location. It's just improved so much to where he'll still get beat from time to time, and it'll be ugly, and you'll see kind of those warts or that development that's still taking place, but he's really stabilized at that spot, and his ceiling has improved and his floor has significantly been raised.
Yeah, it's I think that's a big reason why I enjoy his tape so much, because like I pull on a few years back, like when I'd watch him in preparation for this and be like, it's not there yet. It's not there. And just like, but seeing him get better each year with that, like, I feel like you don't see that a lot at the NFL level. Guys improve to that degree year over year over year. And it's like, it's just been so fun to watch him. But I know, I think it was right before last season started, you actually had Osiris Torrance on your podcast, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, we had him last year, and we had him on again 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. I can't remember. Everything's jumbled. Yeah, we had him on last year, right? Yeah, last year in July, right, literally like a couple days before training camp started.
And again, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll have to go check that one out. But what was, even just the one a few weeks ago then, what was the most interesting thing that kind of he brought up on there to you?
Oh, this one hit me big time. So we've talked so much in like the Bills space and with this offensive line in general, like one, how good they are. but how, no jinx, fingers crossed, how they've been able to stay so healthy the past couple of years. Like even last year when it was, or 2 years ago, I should say, when McGovern was at left guard and Mitch Morse was at center. And then we flipped it this year. Now you got McGovern at center, Edwards at left guard, Alec Anderson is a 6th offensive lineman. The health that they've had as a group. And we were going over, we were breaking down tape with Torrance in the episode. And I think it's one of his blocks on Chris Jones. And he takes him inside and he doesn't bury him, but he just like washes him down. And he says something off the cuff like, oh, like I was driving him inside, but then I saw where Dion was. And I knew that if I finished Jones and took him to the ground, I'm probably going to go into like the back of Dion's knees or his legs. And then I can like bust his knee out. And I was like, oh, is that something like you're aware of all the time or just on this play? And he was like, no, we like Cromer preaches that to us. Like we talk about that. Like we're
take care of each other. Yeah.
And I didn't realize how cognizant they were to that level. And I was like, okay, like obviously they take care of their bodies, right? And the organization is up on injury prevention and so are the players. But with just how healthy they've been as a position group that does not stay healthy. Offensive line get banged up like every week in the blink of an eye. It's almost impossible not to. So I thought it was really telling that like, oh, maybe that's part of the reason why they've been so healthy the past couple of years, because they're not only are they locked in like to their assignments and their technique and responsibility, they're also locked in and cognizant of like where each other are to not push somebody into a knee or a leg or a hip and increase those odds of injury. And that's still like right now has stuck with me for these past couple of weeks because I think it just highlights how well coached they are in every facet and how locked in they are mentally at their position. And it's a testament to them and a huge testament to Aaron Cromer, who's legitimately one of the best position coaches in all of football.
Yeah, it's even from that standpoint, like it's not like, yes, you don't want to hurt Dion by doing that, but you don't want to hurt yourself by doing that either. True, yeah. Right? Like you go down and hit each other. There's a 50-50 chance you're the one getting banged up. Sure. Like, because that just makes me think of like Tevin Jenkins for the Bears.
Once you're on the ground, other people are falling too.
But he was also a madman and constantly getting hurt when he's running into people. Like it does come around that whole way. Now, Dion Dawkins, I feel like he doesn't quite get the credit that maybe he deserves as a left tackle. Do you feel the same? Do you think he gets underrated a little bit out there because of, I don't know, maybe because he's in Buffalo, maybe because it's the Josh Allen show in Buffalo and they don't get as much publicity? Or do you think that he falls in that underrated bucket?
Yeah, I think he and the entire offensive line for the Bills are underrated. And I think it's because they don't have that star that everybody around the league knows. Like everybody, even if you're not an Eagles fan, you know Lane Johnson and you knew Jason Kelsey and you know Jordan Mailata. And there's even guys who know like, oh, Dickerson and stuff. Like they know those extension guys. And then even if you're not a Lions fan, everybody pretty much knows Penei Sewell and how good Sewell is. Like these offensive lines that are good or recognized for being good. Exactly. Like every regular football fan knows how good Trent Williams was or is from the time when he was in Washington and then going to San Francisco. You do the same thing. Yeah. Cowboys. Everybody knows Zach Martin. The Colts. Everybody knows Quentin Nelson. I don't think league wide, like casual fans are like, oh yeah, like Dion Dawkins, like let alone anybody else. But Dion has been that guy. And I don't think he has that national recognition. And I think that extends to the offensive line. And yeah, I think Dion's a really good left tackle. I've never thought that he was like a top 3 or like top 5 left tackle, but he's just been consistently like a top 6 to 9 or 7 to 10, like left tackle for really the last like 3 years, 2-3 years at like worst. And now he's creeping up closer with each year towards like a top 5. He's just been a very stabilizing, calm factor at that left tackle spot. He fits their offense really well. His personality fits the team really well. I do think he's a very good left tackle, and he definitely doesn't get the shine he deserves nationally, and nor does the offensive line as a whole.
Yeah, he seems to take on a really big leadership role, doesn't he? Was he a big part of the new?
Yeah, the offensive line award type.
Yeah.
Deal. Yeah.
I remember seeing his name about it, but like I wasn't sure what exactly his role was. But
yeah, he's very vocal about it. He's super. I think it comes down to the fact that he's a good player, but he's just so charismatic. Like if you had a Buffalo Bill that you wanted to be on like Good Morning Football or something, it would be Deion Dawkins, even over like Josh Allen. And you know what? Dawkins could be a guy that if you're like a casual fan and you watch Hard Knocks this summer, casual football fans might be like, "Oh, that guy's hilarious! Like that guy's awesome! Like he might come away as a big star because of how charismatic he is. In addition to being a good football player,
the world needs more offensive line publicity. I'm all for it.
I can't believe that we just got like an offensive line type of award, like major award created. It's nuts that it's taken like this long for a position group that everybody and their mother, like every year, it's always got to build through the trenches. The trenches decide games, and there's never been any offensive line recognition. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, looking at tight end, when I shot you the graphic originally, you said you could argue Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid, who's starting at tight end. So what's kind of going on there, and what's the kind of split going to be between those two guys?
So it really comes down to what Kincaid is as a blocker, where he is very willing as a blocker. Like he's not soft. He doesn't shy away from contact. You just don't see that effectiveness from him. That physical aspect of his game is still something that's coming along. And so is the technique, body positioning, hand placement, leverage. That's still being developed within him. And again, that's understood, right? Like he came from Utah. College football is so nuts now. So the Pac-12, I'm trying to think of like what divisions are what now because everything's crazy. Like, so but he's playing like essentially big wide receiver, power slot type deal at Utah. And so you knew he needed time on task to develop as a blocker, but he's more of a fluid athlete. He's not some big, thick, center of gravity type of guy. He's more fluid and technical and more lanky than he is thick. So his body type and his skill set and his experience don't lend itself to being like an inline blocker or a plus blocker. The hope was always going to be like, can he just be adequate? Can he be average? Can you put him in? Way. Exactly. Just get in the way, obstruct guys. You don't have to people move, but you could shepherd guys and kind of get them out of the way. But you just haven't seen that enough consistently. Like he can dig out some safeties and beat up on some nickels or some corners, but any type of bigger body or physical presence will give him some problems. I forget who it was for Houston in that game against the Texans where Kincaid was the blocker on like a quick little like RPO tag or bubble. And I think it was 23 and he just ran through Kincaid's chest. And you just see that and you're like, oh, like that's disappointing. And because of that, because you don't really want to line him up in line and because you have to use him as more of a specialized type of role up to this point, I think that question of like, who is tight end one? Do you define it by like importance? Do you define it by snaps? Do you just define it by usage? And because of that, you can make a case like either way. Because if they need somebody to line up in line, it's Dawson Knox. If they need somebody who's going to be on the field majority of snaps, it's going to be Dawson Knox because you can do more things with him because he has versatility as a pass catcher.
Playbook's open kind of thing.
Exactly. And now he's not the level of route runner or pass catcher that Kincaid is. He's still athletic in his own right, but he's much more functional as a blocker, and he's developed into a very good, I shouldn't say very good, into an above average blocker at the tight end position. He can wash down edges. He can be physical at that spot. So it's an interesting mix at tight end in terms of how you define who tight end one is.
And I'm interested to see, you guys took one of my personal favorite players, and I think it was the 5th round.
Yeah, Hawes. Yeah, he's just such a masher, man.
I always say if you can like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, if you can put their highlight tape to heavy metal, I want that guy on my team, and that is Jackson Hawes to a T. What do you think he's going to be more of like an F back, like a move blocker type role, or do you see him playing more in line?
That's a really good question because they had 3 tight ends on the roster last year. The third one was Quentin Morris, who used to be a wide receiver at Bowling Green, developed into a tight end. And by the end of his time in Buffalo, his pass catching ability was still there, but he became an actual like functional blocker, which was awesome to see. And he really thickened up throughout his journey in Buffalo. Hawes is interesting because they have Reggie Gilliam on the roster, who's a legitimate fullback and is a good one, but they don't do a ton of like traditional fullback or F stuff. It's usually more like hipped off of the Y. So like even if you're like defining him as the F, it's more of closer to the line of scrimmage, attached to it or hipped off. I'm really excited for what Hawes can be, because I just, with all the stuff that they've done with Alec Anderson last year, their 6 offensive linemen, you can still do that, but you could like replace Anderson with Hawes because of how much of a monster he is as a blocker. And then he's got more pass catching upside with some burst in the underneath and low intermediate. I think the potential is there for him to have a pretty good role as a blocker. And I really want to see the Bills live in sets where I don't want any receivers on the field. Give me my 5 offensive linemen, give me Knox, give me Hawes, give me a 6th offensive lineman and Alec Anderson, give me Dalton Kincaid split out wide. So somebody has to figure out, okay, can our corner go one-on-one with him or not? And even if they can't, I don't really care, because I want to see the defense figure out how to fit the run against the Bills starting 5 offensive linemen plus Alec Anderson plus Knox plus Hawes, and I just want to mash teams to death.
Just bully ball.
Oh,
that's exactly
would love to watch that.
I would love that. And then you can also you can come out of that. Like you can mash somebody for 2-3 plays in a row, stay in that grouping, and then you could go a little exploded. Like, cause you could put Alec Anderson as the inline tight end, but you could put Knox in the slot, or maybe you put Hawes in the slot. You motion, you shift, you do different things. Like, yeah, I just want to mash the hell out of teams with 3 tight end looks and jumbo at the same time. And just because what do you do? And then again, even if you crowd the box, okay, Kincaid can win one-on-one, and he's going to have the size advantage against most corners. So then it's like, okay, do we put a bigger body out there on him? Do we leave a corner? What do we do?
Especially like on in-breakers against misdirection, linebackers in the league today are not read reacts. They're react then read, right? They're too small to read first. They need to just go. And that doesn't play well to that power game.
No.
Especially with the play action, where they need to get downhill as fast as possible against the run. I feel like that leaves big holes in the middle of the field.
Absolutely. Yeah, and exactly. And then you tie it in with the play action, or you put Josh Allen on some boots. And okay, like if they sync and react with the route distribution, you just have Josh run. Okay, I'm just going to run for a quick 5 or 6 yards, or maybe it's more than that because the flat is open and pass. Yeah, just bring back power football, and I just want to run through teams' faces. And Allen doesn't throw the ball more than 15 times a game because they're running it like 40 times. Oh, give it to me. I would love it.
Now, I guess closing out the offense, we got to talk some running backs here. And James Cook, like, marked him as a blue chip here. I think very highly of him. What type of do you see him splitting carries more this year with Ray Davis, who I think came on down the stretch last year? Or is it still just the James Cook show and Ray Davis is backup?
I do think Cook is – I don't think we're at a situation where it's like a 1A, 1B. I think Cook is the clear one, and then I think you've even kind of got like a 2A, 2B with Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson's a very capable RB3 in his own right. Good pass protector, can do some things as a runner, but is also good as a receiver. Had a bunch of like extended plays last year and was really good for them on third downs. The issue with Cook that it just affects his snap share is pass protection. And he only had 14 reps of pass pro last year. And some of that is by design with how the offense was functioning and just grinding teams into the dust. And, his workload and work rate. But he's improved as a run blocker, but he's still a bit below average in that regard. And I think similar to Kincaid, it's tied to his frame. Just look at the difference between him and Ray Davis. Like, Ray Davis is a better pass protector. So is Ty Johnson. But both of those guys, more compact.
Yeah, Ray Davis is shorter, right? He's like 5'8",
exactly.
5'9". Like, he's got that leverage advantage, and he's like a bit of a bowling ball.
That's exactly it. Right? They're both more. Johnson and Davis are more bowling ball in nature. So just the nature of pass pro for a running back, you're often getting linebackers taking 3, 4, 5 steps and coming at you. They're going to be the hammer. You're the nail. It's better if you're a bowling ball than it is if you're more of a stick like James Cook is. And even though he's assignment sound, like he can scan well, he can recognize who's coming and try and pick them up. He just doesn't have the combination of technique and frame to really handle that. I think that's where Davis could eat into some of his snap share. Same with Johnson as well. I do think they'll try to incorporate Ray Davis more as like a runner and a pass catcher into the offense this year, even if it's just a kind of get him comfortable and confident knowing that James Cook probably isn't coming back next year with what he wants financially, and honestly what he'll probably get on the open market, especially if he has a good year. But throughout all the conversation that's had this offseason, and even what I just said here, I do think Davis will get more work this year. But James Cook is the clear RB1, and he's really good. He's a tremendous fit for what they do, the zone stuff, the gap stuff, the pass catching stuff, even though he's had some big drops and fans just like to focus on that and act like he can't catch and he sucks, which is not true. And all the times that he plays above the scheme, like their duo runs where he bounces it and can either run through a corner or run around the corner. Like the playoff game, Riley Moss comes up and he's just like, psych, and just runs right around Riley Moss for like 20 something yards. He does that to everybody with regularity. Like he can play within the scheme and above it. He added more physicality to his game last year and was running through some dudes and finishing through contact. He's a really good back and the clear one, but Davis is going to eat into him a little bit this year, and I think Johnson will as well.
Okay. Jay, any final thoughts on the offense here before we move on to the defense?
No, just put some respect on this offensive line. I mean, in my opinion, top 3 in the league. Ooh. With the MVP at quarterback, and James Cook's about to rush for about 1,800 yards and 16 touchdowns.
I like it.
All right, now let's get on over to Bobby Babbich's unit, the son of the former Bears legend Bob Babich, or coaching legend. But Anthony, what I mentioned this to you when you asked if there's anything to prepare for, and so what is up with McDermott's defense in the playoffs? Like, am I overreacting to a few games where I'm just like, why can't their defense stop anybody? Or where I'm just, that may not be rational on my part as someone who doesn't watch them week to week? Or do you think there's something deeper there?
I do think there is something. I think it's two things, right? Like the more often than not, and you said this to me in the DMs, like, oh, is it a Mahomes issue or is it like a McDermott issue? I do think it's, the guy that they keep losing to and the team that they keep losing to is the team that everyone seemingly loses to and can't get by, right? But the way that they lose, I think defensively, is somewhat problematic. And I think it's tied to the philosophy and kind of identity of what they are defensively. Like they are now and have been, a traditional 4-down, over front, one gapping, penetrative by nature. They want guys who can slash and get through gaps up front. They don't want, run stuffers or guys that can mitigate displacement. They potentially consider that, if you believe the rumors, they took Max Hairston in the first round of the draft, but Tyleek Williams, the defensive tackle from Ohio State, who went to the Lions, reportedly said that the Bills told him if he was there at 30, they were going to take him. And he's got some athleticism to his game and can get forward a little bit, but he's much more of a run defender on the interior than he is a pass rusher. So maybe they were going to change a little bit, but you look with just how they built this defense. I think it's a type of defense that year over year tends to have issues in the playoffs because they can get blown off the ball horizontally and vertically. They have some issues stopping the run. I think they've also had some issues athletically on the back end. Even when Hyde and Poyer were tremendous safeties at the back end, they weren't these athletic marvels that were filled with a ton of speed. So when the Chiefs were rolling out all this speed, the Bills had issues with that kind of speed. And now, as we've gone forward a bit, they've had injuries the past couple of years. Their defense, I thought, performed admirably 2 seasons ago at home against Kansas City, despite having pretty much their entire defense banged up and calling A.J. Klein off of a cruise with his family to come start in the divisional round of the playoffs. But I do think there's something to be said for the way they operate schematically and how that tends to get picked apart, and tying that into the way they built the roster. Again, even a similar conversation for as much as, Kansas City is Kansas City. The Bills defense got waxed by the Ravens the week before. Yeah, Lamar had some turnovers, but when push came to shove in that second half, the Ravens moved the ball up and down the field. And for as much as Bills fans like to knock Lamar, again, when push came to shove and he needed to drive them down to tie the game, he did it with ease in the blink of an eye. And we tend to see that happen to this defense, magnified in the playoffs, but it also happens a bit in the regular season at times too. I think they need more of a roster change and a skill set and archetype change, especially up front. but they doubled down on their archetype this offseason with Ogunjobi and TJ Sanders. So we're going to do this dance again and see if it works out.
Well, one guy who fits the archetype, but also I don't think fits any archetype that they added is Landon Jackson. And I don't know if you can expect anything from him as a rookie, but like, I don't know. When I watched his tape, I was just like, this guy is different than everybody else, right? Like his physical skill set, the way that he uses it is different. And I think that makes him harder to evaluate and overlooked because of it. But I don't know. I couldn't get it out of my head that there's something more there with him to become a really good football player. And it might just be, daydreaming about Max Crosby or something, but like there aren't many ways. There are many guys who win the way that he does, I think. And that's one guy who I am going to be really interested in watching the next few years, how he grows.
He's a fit for their archetype from a mentality standpoint, leader, high character guy, violent in terms of how he approaches the game. But then also like his body type and how he plays, like the length and pocket compression. If you ever want to think of the Bills archetype, Greg Rousseau is very exaggerated because he's built like a friggin' redwood tree in every way, shape, and form. But that's what they want at edge. They want power, they want length, they want run defense, and they want compression as a rusher. Not that they don't care about other things, but they don't need to have dip or bend or moves or athleticism at edge. They want violence, compression, and run defense. Landon Jackson is literally all of those things. And we'll see he's so high cut, and that scares me in terms of guys that are that high cut and how mobile can they be and the lack of, lower body flexibility that he has. But every time I think of him, I just think he had a sack against Tennessee last year off the right side, and the right he sells upfield, stabs back inside, and the right tackle grabs his face mask and yanks his helmet completely sideways. And Jackson doesn't even flinch. He plays right through it and then spears the quarterback and sacks him while his helmet is like, I was like,
sideways.
Yeah, I thought his neck got broken. And he was like, no, I just gonna play through it and get the sack. And I was like, oh, like, okay. Like you got it. In
physically, he's got some different aspects to him that I started to fall in love with, and I had to temper myself down for like, there's still a lot to work here. There's still a lot to work on. There's definitely flaws with, like you said, the bend and the ankle flexion and stuff like that. But at the same time, it was just like, what you could do with this guy if you can get him right. Like, they
need to get him right though. And that's fair. And they need to get him right because Michael Hoyt, who I love that free agent addition, and I don't think he's going to be a traditional like 4-3 edge guy for them. They'll use him there, but I'm hoping they use him how the Rams used him in that spinner type of role where he's lined up in the A gap. He's an off-ball linebacker. Like, you don't know where he's coming from. Essentially like what the Packers did with Clay Matthews kind of on the back half of his career where on third downs, you guys had no idea where he was coming from. But with Hoyt suspended for the first 6 games, and then Joey Bosa just at this point not being able to stay healthy, you might need Landon Jackson to do some stuff. Like, he might be edge 3 for you in week 1 with no Hoyt and maybe Bosa's out. And you might need something from Javon Solomon too. Like, there's a chance that Landon Jackson's going to play meaningful reps, and it can't just be, all right, hang your hat on the violence and the run defense. Like, you might need to bring something as a rusher. So we'll see. Like, he might get baptized by fire real quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure how his run defense is going to hold up right away in the NFL. There were some. It was very boom bust, I felt like, in his college tape. But moving on from Jackson, like, I think you got to this a little bit in there of like, it doesn't seem like this defensive line has someone who, when you need a bucket, can just go get you a bucket. Mm-hmm. But if you had to pick someone, who is that guy on this defensive line?
If everybody's healthy, Joey Bosa. I still think if Joey Bosa's healthy, I still think Joey Bosa is a legit edge 1 as a pass rusher. I think he'd be an edge 1 in general. Like, he's a legitimately good run defender, and he's a very good pass rusher. He just can't stay healthy. Like, so if everybody's healthy and all things are equal, it's Joey Bosa hands down. after that, you can if you could make the case it's either got to be Rousseau or it's got to be Oliver. I would probably, if I needed a bucket as a rusher, I would put more eggs into the Ed Oliver basket. But he also, and this is part of the conversation of having issues in the playoffs, he also has a habit of just ghosting at times, and you have no idea what happened to him. Two seasons ago, when they lost to the Chiefs in Buffalo, just an absolute ghost on the field. You would have no idea. And then this year, when losing an AFC Championship at Kansas City, he played phenomenal. Lost in that poor defensive performance was how Ed Oliver ate up Tooney and Smith and Humphrey on the interior and had a strong game against the run and the pass. But yeah, if I needed somebody to get me a bucket, because Bosa's probably banged up, it would either be Oliver or Rousseau, but I don't think either of those dudes are true, like, ISO ball, get you a bucket type guys, which is also part of the problem come playoff time, is that they haven't had that guy. Von Miller was supposed to be that guy, and then he tore his ACL, missed that year. It hasn't been the same since. They don't have that bucket getter. They don't have that one-on-one dude that can get you something there. And instead, they've kind of tried to do the Moneyball thing and win in the aggregate, but the aggregate hasn't been enough. Like, it's fine to not have this A player on the defensive line if you have a whole bunch of B pluses or a whole bunch of A minuses, but they haven't had that either. And so you're kind of patchworking it together in a variety of ways. But that's a great question, because it probably is Rousseau or Oliver, but I don't think either of them are true bucket getters as a rusher.
Okay. And then sticking at defensive tackle here, I mean, I feel like I've noticed a trend in the last few years, and I mentioned this on a few other episodes, where I think defensive tackle has become a more and more difficult spot for rookies to succeed at, because the college game has become so much more about reading before you engage, and that's not the NFL game. Do you think there's more in Dwayne Carter's bucket here, or do you think he kind of has shown what he is?
We had him on the show a month ago, and it gave me more hope and encouraged me. But he had a very poor rookie season and was just very ineffective as a rusher and as a run defender. And he was just getting blown off, especially as a run defender, like getting blown off the ball horizontally, vertically, not being able to withstand a double team in any way, shape, or form, like not being able to anchor, not being able to drop the knee. I'm not going to write a guy off after a rookie year, or any rookie. Like, I think even if someone's amazing, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, they're probably going to be even better next year. Like, you never know. You really got to give a guy a couple of years in the league. And then there's the general rule. You don't really make a concrete judgment on a guy until he's had 3 years in the league. So I'm not completely writing him off. But I do think, like, if Larry Ogunjobi didn't have to worry about that suspension, I really do think, you know, it's tough for Carter to make the team if they had a competent defensive tackle 5 to compete with him. Deion Walker is a wild card because of his health and his spinal defect that they have to kind of manage and maintain, in addition to the weight and kind of reshaping his body composition a bit. So I think Walker being a wild card and Ogunjobi being suspended for the first 6 games helps Carter make this team. But I really do think it could be him and just any other body, and you have a Joker in the Dark Knight situation where you crack the pool stick and you just, here you go, and Carter probably loses.
Okay, interesting. And I'm rooting for Carter. I liked him a lot in the draft, but I felt like the risk with him was that he was tapped out. And maybe that. Well,
and so what's interesting with that too is you're right. Like, I never expected him to be. I always never do comps because I hate it. But my statement on him coming out last year was I thought his ceiling was like a good defensive tackle 3, like a high end rotational guy. But I also thought his floor was a defensive tackle 4. Like, I thought he would just be this quality backup for years in a variety of ways.
Guy who could kind of play a little 1-tech if he needs to, more 3-tech likely, but he could do it.
Yes, and that's such a good statement. So, of what you just said, and the segue to my next point with him, when we spoke with him, they had him playing last year at like 310. Like, he was playing heavier than he normally has, and he's fluctuated and played at different weights, but they had him playing more 1 than I thought he should. Like, his best tape at Duke was penetrate, get forward, get upfield. But instead, they took him and Austin Johnson, the two backup defensive tackles, and they had Austin Johnson, who had been a one tech majority of his career. They had him trimmed down, and they had Dwayne Carter bulk up, and they used both of them like interchangeably as ones and threes. And I didn't think that set either up for success. I thought Austin Johnson should have been heavier and been more of a one tech, and they should have let Carter play as the three, but they used him as this interchangeable guy on the interior. And I do not think that did him any favors, because his run defense was the most questionable aspect of his game for me. And he got caught in a lot of double teams and a lot of run defense work that I don't think he should have been.
And I really do think those guys who aren't Goliaths coming into the league aren't 330, 340 plus as defensive tackles. From the tape I've seen of rookie defensive tackles, they really struggle against the run. Because they're used to being able to just hold up with their strength, and that's not really the case anymore at the NFL.
Yeah. Plus, you get so much spread in college football where it's like, okay, it's one guy. Let me punch, extend, and read and see what we got. Now the NFL is like, nah, man, we're going condensed. We're going gap scheme. We're running duo. You better be able to drop the knee against this double team.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's changing. We're getting that cyclical nature. The whole Matthew McConaughey and True Detective time is a flat circle gif and meme. That's where everything
all comes back around.
That's exactly it. We're going back to 1970s football.
Love it. I feel like I've been predicting that for 15 years, so I'm glad to see it finally.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, same.
But let's move on to the linebackers in the secondary here. I mean, so what's the situation with Matt Milano? Is he healthy again? I don't even remember how much he played last year, just off the top of my head.
So it's funny. I was literally watching Matt Milano tape earlier tonight because I'm thinking of doing a full episode on what his year looked like. His first game that he played was against the Niners in Week 13, that Snow Bowl Sunday night game against San Francisco. His first several games, you could tell that he was a guy who was coming off of an injury. So he had the leg injury, the significant leg injury the year before that took him out. And then I forget what he did to his elbow or tricep or whatever he did in camp. And then that's why he missed the first 12 weeks of the season. Came back, was playing with a significant arm brace. You could tell that he was restricted a bit in his upper body movement and trying to bring guys down, still trying to get back into game shape. There was some ugliness his first, several weeks back. But by the time he played the last game of the year, which was the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, you started to see more of that old Matt Milano. There's a rep against the Chiefs in the second half. They run their odd mirror stuff, which they love to do against Kansas City, which, if you don't know, essentially like a three-man rush with an aggressive spy. And Milano is usually that aggressive spy. And Mahomes takes off, and Milano chases him down, and it's him and Mahomes one-on-one in the open field. And just like a heat-seeking missile, or like a red shell in Mario Kart, he tracks down Mahomes, takes out his lower body, scoops him, drops him on third down, and the Bills get the stop. It was one of the few times the Bills forced to stop, in a punt in that game, or really at any point during the year, because everything was either points or a takeaway. And I think that really highlighted what he was down the stretch. He got a little healthier within each game. He got a little more confident in himself with each game. I think him and Bernard have the opportunity to be legitimately one of like a top 5 linebacker pairing in the NFL. Bernard is so heady and so smart, and Milano is just a couple years removed from being an all-pro in this league. The only thing he has to do is stay healthy. He's been that this offseason. They've been bringing him along accordingly. We saw the shades and the flashes down the stretch. I don't think he's going to be all-pro Matt Milano this year, but even if he's 80 or 90% of that, that's still a really friggin' good linebacker, and he started to show flashes of it down the stretch past year.
Now, if Matt Milano, we want him to play a lot, right? But he's played, 9 games the last 2 regular seasons. If he does go down, God forbid, how are you feeling about maybe Dorian Williams or Shaq Thompson still on the roster, or a guy like Edefwan Olufoshio stepping into those shoes?
So it will probably be Dorian, and I don't hate it as much as I hated the idea of it last year. Dorian, because he got thrust into game action with Milano going down, he got the time on task that he needed, and he's improved as a player. He became a strong run defender, being able to read, come forward, make plays in and around the line of scrimmage, had a bunch of stops last year. I think he improved in that regard. he's still learning the game from a coverage standpoint. And that's not a knock against him. That doesn't mean he's bad. He went to Tulane. Tulane, his tape, his last year at Tulane, I think I watched like 6 games. I think he had 3 reps where he played any type of like match coverage in zone. Everything was pretty much like spot drop, Madden style. Hey, you know, go hit your landmark, turn around, look for somebody, try and pick them up. Like he played a very elementary level of defense from
Matt
a coverage
Eberflus
standpoint.
defense.
Fair. Fair. And from going from that, the NFL was always going to be a challenge, but especially the Bills defense that is adjustment based and rules based and all the things that they do there more often than not. So I still do think he's a work in progress from a coverage standpoint, both in zone and man. He has to kind of, you know, realizing, you know, yeah, you're covering the hook to curl to flat, but you don't need to jump that running back on the swing route on 3rd and 9 and, you know, leave your spot vulnerable to a guy on a 10-yard hook who it's an easy pitch and catch for a first down. So I think he's still improving there. I feel better about him this year. If he had to step in week 1, I feel significantly better than I did last year, but I don't want him to be in that role. Give me Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, and we'll cross the Dorian Williams bridge next year if it comes to pass.
Yeah. And then that's probably the most time we spent on linebackers on any team so far this year, because we found this year that we have a significant blind spot for the linebacker position around the league. So we love your insight. But moving on to corner, a guy who I've personally just kind of accepted that he's really good. And like I see plays here and there. I'm like, oh, Christian Benford out here making plays. Okay. But I don't know enough about him to be confident in it. So if you were going to sell me on Christian Benford as a top tier corner, what would you say?
He's above average at worst in almost every facet of what you want in a corner. He's got some size, he's got some frame, he's got some athleticism, he's got some speed. He's a really good run defender, both in terms of like a tackler, but also in terms of being like a force player on the outside. Part of the reason they play so much cover too, like just what he can do as a force player on the outside and how effective he is. But he just ticks so many boxes at the spot. He's smart. He's calm and poised in his pedal. He takes good angles. He's got good hips. He's got good feet. He's physical. And, you know, for his being a physical and size and frame guy to a degree, he also has enough juice that he won't get completely burned by Tyreek Hill. If, you know, he's responsible for him on the seam, if they're playing cover 3, he can run with him a bit. And then he also knows how to use his body to kind of cut off a guy like that and squeeze him a little bit and impede them, but not impede them and draw the flag. He's just a very sound corner in, this is like the way to put it. Like, he's a very sound corner in a lot of unsexy ways. Like, he's not Derek Stingley. He's not Sauce. He's not this pure lockdown man coverage, like plays on the ball, tons of takeaways. He's just really sound in coverage, really reliable, really responsible, and more often than not is in good position, restricting airspace and recovering well, despite the fact that he might not be the best athlete or the most imposing type of guy. He's just really good at almost every facet of playing corner.
I mean, there are only 5 of those guys who are really good at all of it in the entire league. So,
yeah,
I mean, more than not of playing the position is how you position yourself, right? And understanding the mental side of the game, the spacing and what you can and can't do. So I'll buy it. I'll buy what you're selling.
The biggest thing with him is he's not deficient in any one area. You don't look at him and go like, oh, yeah, but he can't tackle, or oh, yeah, but he can't handle speed, or oh, yeah, but he can't handle size. Like, there is none of that. Like, he might not be a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5. No, he's a 9 out of 10 as a run defender, as a corner. But most things, he's probably an 8 to an 8.5 or a 7.5 at worst, like across the board. There's nothing where he's average or below average.
Which most defense will take all day.
Exactly. And especially in the Bills defense, where everything is about reliability, responsibility, it's what's helped him flourish, climb the depth chart, and become a legitimate CB1 in this league.
Now, I feel like you guys have a good answer in the slot with Teron Johnson. I mean, tell me if you feel differently, but I feel like that's a pretty open and shut case. You feel good about what you got there. But the opposite corner of him, where Maxwell Hairston's supposed to start, when I saw that pick, I mean, I was a little lower on Hairston than some others, but the one thing I saw was this guy can ball hawk from off coverage, and no one is outrunning him.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about him in that spot? And is he your Xavier Worthy, Tyreek Hill like beater essentially?
You know, it's funny because like with those type of dudes, like when they face like Hill or Worthy, it's funny. I was talking about it last week because Tyreek Hill had that comment of like, oh, every time we play the Bills, they play a bunch of cover 4 because like they're a bunch of bitches or whatever he said. But the Bills traditionally have played like a more cover 2 than anything because they'll cloud that side. So a lot of times their corners aren't even really running, and they do a lot of mixed coverage stuff too. We did a whole episode on it, so that's neither here nor there. But
make sure to go check it out over at Cover 1.
Oh,
right?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. They've been really good about knowing their guys' limitations and working around it. I think Hairston does give them that opportunity, though, to be like, okay, we have a guy with real recovery speed, real juice, who we're confident can go vertical with anybody, whether it's, zone coverage that turns into man or match coverage or some man stuff. And I think really is the plan to take advantage of that athleticism and the juice that he brings. Now, he's not the polished man corner that I think a lot of fans expected or thought because he's so athletic and so juiced up. And he can play some press, which is nice. But really, and you mentioned it, like his affinity for zone and his affinity for off coverage, he can sit there like 10 yards off the ball. And because he's so quick and has such a good trigger, he can close down on anything underneath him. Because he just takes one step and bang, he's there. He's like he covers like 5 yards and it seems like the blink of an eye. And then you're not going to beat him over the top because he's got the speed. And even if you do beat him, he still has the speed to kind of recover and make a play on the ball. He's got that one play where he gets beat on the post by Isaiah Bond against Texas. Granted, it's a bad throw by Ewers, shock, but he recovers and ends up making the play on the post and recovers and gets the PBU. My biggest thing with him is I do think he needs more refinement in press and in man coverage to truly kind of take advantage of that skill set and come into his own. And he's a very inconsistent tackler. He's a very willing tackler. He's not shying away from contact, but it's understandable. Like he's got a smaller frame, smaller weight, and he takes inconsistent angles to the ball. And because he is a smaller frame and weight type of dude and size guy, you have very little margin for error when you come forward. So your angles cannot be off. Your routes to the ball cannot be off, and they are at times. And when you pair that with size and frame, even if he takes a perfect angle to the ball, because of the size and frame, it's still going to be a bit of a toss-up, which makes that selection very interesting because their corners traditionally have been like very solid and sound tacklers in that regard, more often than not. And not these athletic specimens or freaks or juiced up guys that Hairston is. I was also very surprised at the pick. So we'll see how that works out. But, I mean, I'll take a dude who can run like a 4.2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Love speed.
He can move, man.
Yeah, he can fly.
Now, would it surprise you at all if a guy like Dorian Strong found his way to a handful of starts this year?
Oh, no, absolutely not. He ticks like he is the archetype that they want at that spot, right? Like, tons of experience, leader. Like this sounds so corny to so many people, but tons of experience, leader, comes from a defensive-based school at Virginia Tech where they like defense is a very important piece and they play it very well. He was well coached. He's sound from a technique standpoint. He's a competitor. He's physical. He can play some press. Like he's very sound and responsible in zone. No, it would not shock me like at all because he just ticks so many boxes that they look for from a skill set and traits perspective. He is like, he is the archetype. Maxwell Hairston is not. Like Hairston is not their archetype. Dorian Strong is.
And I love Dorian Strong's tape at Virginia Tech. It was like, this guy might get burned sometimes because he doesn't have the makeup speed, but like, man, he is a dog. I really enjoyed his tape. Now, let's finish this out at safety where we got Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop starting. I can tell by your reaction. Now I got to ask about it. Like, so what was the reaction there? How are you feeling?
I like Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop as individuals and like in a vacuum. I don't like their pairing together. I'll start with Bishop, who I still don't think is a great fit for this Bills defense. And he could be, right? I think he needs more time on task. But I thought his best tape at Utah was as more of a down safety, like in and around the box, as like a big nickel off ball dude. You don't know, like, okay, is he in man coverage against a tight end or running back? Is he blitzing from the slot? Is he going to blitz like the B gap or the A gap? Is he dropping in like the hook to curl or the flat? Like, what's he doing? I think he's best in and around the box and playing from the top down. I think the further away he gets from the line of scrimmage, the worse he gets, whether single high or too high. Like he's still learning that aspect, right? Like seeing the game from that vantage point, let alone having the responsibilities and the assignments that go along with it, right? So you take that, and then you, in theory, pair him with Taylor Rapp, who is good from a processing standpoint, the deeper he gets from the line of scrimmage, but doesn't have the wheels or the athleticism or the foot speed to play as a single high type of safety. So I think they have questions with the pairing in terms of how they mesh, where I think Rapp is better in and around the box and around the line of scrimmage, just like Bishop is. But Bishop has more athleticism and juice and man coverage ability. So you'd like Bishop in that role and you'd rather push Rapp back. But Rapp doesn't have the foot speed or the range to play as a single high safety. Bishop does, but he doesn't have the processing. Like, I wish I could take Taylor Rapp's brain and put it in Cole Bishop's body, and they would kind of be good to go. Like, I just, the pairing, I don't think they complement one another tremendously, even though Rapp is a really good tackler from depth. Like, I can't tell you how many long touchdown runs he saved with the defensive line and the spine getting blown off the ball.
It's one of the most underrated things in defense that no one talks about is safeties who can get downhill and get themselves in the run fit when they were never accounted for by the blockers.
Yep. He would come and he would shut down runs to like 5 or 6 yards. And then there were the bigger ones too, where, Christian McCaffrey gained 12 yards. But if Rapp doesn't make that tackle, it's a 45 or 50-yard touchdown in the snow. He did that throughout the year. So he's great playing the run from depth. They're pairing with one another. I don't think they complement each other tremendously well. And I think Cole Bishop was better suited for a defense like what the Patriots were the past couple years, or the Ravens, or the Cardinals, like 3 safeties, big nickel, like variety of responsibilities, and like using him as a monster man and an unlock guy, not like a traditional safety, which is how the Bills use their safeties, even though they are somewhat interchangeable from a free and strong perspective. I honestly, this might be a bit hot takey from an outside of from a national perspective. We'll see. I think Derek Forrest has a chance to start because I think he's the best combination of athleticism, run defense, and coverage versatility on the back end. I think there's a shot. I think the Bills want it to be Rapp and Bishop. I think that will be the case, but if anything happens to one of them, I think there's a chance I think Derek Forrest has a legitimate chance to be safety 3, and I think he has a chance to push them for a starting spot.
Okay. I like that. I'm gonna have to find some clips of him. But I almost, as you're saying this, it's almost kind of ironic. Like if you have 2 like rover kind of box safeties, you end up having to play 2 more too high split field coverages,
exactly,
which neither of them are actually good at.
No, because you don't want, if you're playing cover 1 or cover 3, like neither of them are really built to be a post safety. Bishop has the athleticism, but not the processing. Rapp has the processing, but not really the athleticism. And so you're locked into, and this is where it all comes full circle. You're locked more into cover 2 and cover 4, or cover 6, whatever 2 high coverage you want to go with. But then, because they get blown off the ball in the spine and they have a small second level and they're smaller on the interior, they tend to get displaced. So the way they win against the run is either by, hoping you win with someone penetrating off rip from a light box perspective, or more often than not, you have to win by gapping out and bringing numbers. But guess what? You can't friggin' gap out and bring numbers if you got to play too high all the time. And that's part of the reason why I kept saying, like, if Malachi Starks falls to 30, give me Malachi Starks. Like, I will take him and I will play him in the post all day. And whoever wants to be the down safety, cool. I don't care. Now, if Benford and Hairston work out, or Benford and whoever the other corner is, we'll see. If you're confident in those dudes on an island, maybe it makes you feel better being like, okay, we can play single high and just leave that safety in the post because we can just let our corners play on an island and know they're locked down. So that can help mitigate some things from a run fit perspective in too high. But yeah, you're spot on. Like it's ironic how that kind of leads to that, and then how that coalesces into their run defense issues.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's last question on the defense, I swear. Are you happy Trey White's back?
Yeah, I never wanted to see Trey go. Like it was so, and especially the way he went out, like non-contact, you knew something was wrong, throws the helmet, he's already like teary-eyed and emotional. And he was just such a good player when he was here, all pro corner, truly locked down. And he was making strides and getting back to that form. Like as he tore that Achilles, he was locking up Tyreek Hill in that game. And it was just super cool to see him come back. He's a great culture guy. I think he's an awesome dude to be like corner 3 or corner 4 on this team. Knows the defense in and out, and had some actually fun reps last year from his time when he was with Baltimore after he left the Rams. So yeah, I'm super happy that he's back.
All right, let's get to some wrap up here. Jay, you want to talk a little bit of bets now?
Yeah, so looking at this team, we have a win total of 11.5, minus 160 on that, plus 135 for the under. Playoffs minus 750, division minus 260, Super Bowl 7-1. So I don't know if you're a gambler, but if you were to place a future, where do you find value in some of these futures on the team, and what do you kind of see as the trajectory of this team for 2025?
I think the win-loss total you have down there is pretty close to what they're going to be. Like I do think they're going to be somewhere around 13-4. If everything falls right, I can see them being like 14-3. If everything goes wrong, I think it's 10-7, kind of like what you have. But I really do think I'm smashing the over on the win total. I think they end up with 12 or 13 wins. Again, everything I'm saying this whole episode, anything I say that's positive, massive no jinx. Fingers crossed. I am extremely superstitious. So yeah, I would smash the over on that win total. Playoffs, I think, is, again, I'm not going to say guaranteed because I'm far too superstitious for that, but it's pretty good. Division, yeah, give me that division. I would, right now, I would put a good chunk of money down on the win total and the division at this point. And then, why not throw a couple bucks at the Super Bowl with the 7-1 odds?
Yeah, I like the 7-1 odds there. So are you in Buffalo?
I am.
Heck yeah. 2026. Me and my wife are planning a trip. I'll hit you up on Twitter.
Do it. I mean, you're a lifelong Bills fan. I would love nothing more than to be together with a lifelong Bills fan.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Yeah, we're doing Philly this year, so
nice.
We got a week-long trip scheduled first week of the season for that, and then I think next year we're doing Buffalo. So
yeah, you'll get to see the new stadium in 2026.
Perfect. Can't wait.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah, I'll probably join you on that, Jay. It's only 6
perfect.
hours
Let's
drive.
do it. Hey, that's about anywhere I have to go in Texas. It's about 6 hours for me, so it ain't nothing.
We'll get some pizza. We'll get some wings. Do some tailgate, and it'll be a good time.
Perfect.
Anthony,
I can't wait.
Best spot for wings.
Oh, it's gonna sound. There's a pizza spot in Lackawanna called Bella Pizza. Their wings are my favorite. But honestly,
Lackawanna?
Yeah, Lackawanna, Buffalo. It's like a small suburb or like town.
My wife is from Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, so I was like, I had to ask because I'm there all the time.
That's super funny. Very fair. Yeah, there's Lackawanna is one of the like surrounding towns or suburbs, however you want to like label it, that for like the city of Buffalo. Yeah, that spot is pretty good. But honestly, like, not to play this card, it's hard to find bad wings. Like here, Duff's has great wings. Duff's is a really good spot. I like Duff's as well. If we're just talking pure wings, like pure spot where I'm going and I'm not getting anything other than wings, Duff's is up there. But yeah, it's hard to find bad wings. Like there's and you could ask 10 people and you might get 10 different answers because there's so many good spots.
Okay,
it's like Mexican food in Texas.
Fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us, sharing so much knowledge about the Buffalo Bills. Can you let everyone know where they should go follow you, where they should find your work? Because obviously, if you watch this whole thing, you want to go find this guy's work. He does outstanding stuff, and he knows the game better than anybody.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro 2_ANT. You can find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there on Blue Sky, just PROANT. I host 2 shows on the Cover One Network. One is called Disguised Coverage. That's my show, mix of film, analytics, different guests from time to time, and a variety of like detailed, deep dive topics and subjects. And then I co-host another show called The Film Room. That show is, as you would probably guess, pretty much all film mixed in with advanced metrics. But everything I'm doing on on both shows, on my socials, it's all pretty much tape and film breakdown and talking about concepts and showing coverage structures and why this worked and why this beat that. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Just constantly
Perfect.
learning and teaching the game. Love it. But
Absolutely.
thank you for joining us, Anthony. We hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, you
Always
too.
a
Thanks for
good
having
time.
me. Yeah,
We'll just have to run it back for year 3 next year too.
I'm always down. I said it the first time you guys had me. Saying again now. Anytime you want me, you got me. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, man. You have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Night.
All right, Jay.
All right.
Good.
It is about to start pouring rain. I gotta go let my dogs out. If you want to get started on this, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. So
first time we've had rain in Midland, Texas in like 4 years, so it's nice. But
it's a long
you
time.
gotta manage the dogs. Gotta manage the dogs.
All they get there is hail and heat. But okay. Miami Dolphins. Very, very curious team here. I don't know. I look at them one day and I say, this can work. I look at them another day and I go, I don't know if this can work. Like when you have 2 wide receivers like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I have to think there's a chance of you being really good on offense when Tua has been so efficient at delivering the football to them. The explosive option of Devin A-Chain, like I don't think there's any reason why they can't stay in most regular season games. But the constant question with this team under Mike McDaniel with Tua has been, can they win the important games, right? When push comes to shove, when you're playing up against the best of the best, how are you performing against that? And I do think there are some flaws to the way their offense is structured to, like, for example, I feel like their O-line has been pretty piecemeal the last 2 years, last year and coming into this year specifically. And a big part of that is because you have Tua at quarterback, right? Tua gets the ball out so fast and he processes stuff so quickly that you might not need to invest that much in your O-line to be a playoff caliber team. But when you're playing against the best D lines in the NFL, like you do in the playoffs, I think that comes back to bite you some because that he might not be able to get rid of it so quickly because those defense can take away stuff. And then it's like, okay, now we're having a lot of trouble actually moving the football efficiently. But Jay, what are your initial thoughts on this Miami team?
Oh man, seems like they're kind of a ship without a rudder almost at times. It seems like they want to have the identity of running the football, but then it seems like they get away from it too early and start trying to get a little bit too pass heavy, relying on his arm a little bit more than they should. I love Devon A-Chan. Feel like he needs to touch the ball more. We both loved Jalen Wright last year coming out of Tennessee. I really feel like, especially with McDaniel at the helm, need to do a better job at establishing the run. And maybe you're worried about your offensive line. I don't know what it is. But
I think they had a really hard time moving the football on the ground last year because of their offensive line.
Yeah. But then when you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill opposite of each other, it's also hard to be like, well, we could just throw it to them.
Right. It's one of the most perplexing teams in the league this year, I think. Like, because I believe Mike McDaniels can find ways to score points in the regular season, especially with the talent he has here. I believe Mike McDaniel is a run game savant. Like, I think that the way that he designs his run game, he takes advantage of a lot of things that a lot of teams don't necessarily see. but I also think there is a like smoke and mirrors quality to it at times that doesn't last in the big moments, right? Like I have a hard time explaining.
Maybe that's the best. Maybe that's the best way to describe this team. A little too cute.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but hey, has there ever been a coach that looked more like Miami than Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, no, I mean he fits the vibe for sure. This might be the last run we see if we don't put something together this year, though.
Now let's talk about the big thing here. There was a trade that happened.
There was a trade
days ago.
Get rid of Johnny Smith. Don't need him.
Don't need him.
Get rid of Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is probably out the door either way. So,
and that was weird because he just signed a contract extension last year there. But as I was digging
after signing
into that,
for pretty cheap originally,
as I was digging into that contract extension, it was like, okay, so they signed this knowing they might trade him, basically.
Yeah.
Right? And he signed this knowing he might get traded. It was like he gave himself opportunities to get out, and they gave themselves opportunities to get him out. Like, and because it was a pretty tradable deal, and a guy of that talent and dollar amount, I don't think usually gets that type of deal where unless he wants it, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, so getting back Minkah Fitzpatrick in the deal, I mean, you send him away. He has all of his best years in Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh gives him back to you. If I'm a betting man, which I am, I tend to think Pittsburgh kind of knows their player personnel fairly well. We've talked about it before. Yeah, probably not the best team to think you're stealing one there, but Minkah Fitzpatrick's a hell of a player. I know you were kind of telling me the other day, maybe the back half of this season wasn't up to his normal standard. So maybe he can get back to form here in Miami.
Well, and the more I've listened to stuff on it and kind of looked into it, the more it's seeming like kind of getting into, if you guys were here for our discussion with Ant, like Minkah was the only guy who could play single high for the Steelers. So he was forced into that, and he couldn't play the rover role that he excels at. Now, I don't know if that changes here. Like his time in Pittsburgh, when he was really killing it, he was able to roam around and play a bunch of different roles. He wasn't able to do that down the stretch last year for Pittsburgh because they needed him playing single high. I look at this roster, I see another team that's going to need him to play single high all the time, though. So like I don't know how that solves much, but also, I mean, maybe they get more creative with it.
Yeah, maybe they find a way to figure it out there. And then another big trade, Darren Waller, the rapper, back in the NFL, traded from the New York Giants. And they're not done, right? Like, you think Tyreek Hill is probably still going to be on the move? I know that's kind of been talked about for a year and a half now.
Man, I don't know, because I just don't know if they're going to get value that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So because I went down a rabbit hole with Tyreek before this episode, where I was like, okay, worst year of his career, pretty much 660 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns across 8 games, or no, that was his games with Tua, across 17 games. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
But then I looked at, okay, let's see what games he played with Tua.
Mm-hmm.
I think I excluded, or no, I don't think I even excluded the game where Tua got hurt. He was with Tua, he was pacing 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. Like, so if you trade him right now, I don't know that anyone is going to give you the type of value you should get for a 1,400-yard receiver.
Yeah. So maybe they trade him after 3 weeks where he has 450 yards on the season already and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe like I don't know who they're clearing room for unless it's like Eric Izukama. I mean, they signed Nick Westbrook-Ikhine to a decent deal. I have to imagine they're going to use him, right?
Yeah, and I mean, he showed some flashes last year at Tennessee. He had that 3-week stretch where it seems like he was getting 176 yards and a touchdown every week on 3 catches. just burning people. So they sure love their speed here on the offense. So
well, and I mean, he's not even, to me, like I see that signing, I go, that's not about his receiver play. It's about his blocking, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the way I see it. It's like he's there for his run blocking more than anything. That's what's kept him in the league.
Yep. And then, all right. So looking at this roster starting out on the offense, Tua, probably your biggest question mark there with the health and injury history and concussions and everything. I do like the idea of bringing in a guy like Zach Wilson, who very highly talented, maybe never got a true opportunity to succeed in a bad organization before. Maybe they can find something out of him, especially being a backup for a little bit. And then I like the addition of Quinn Ewers as well at quarterback, especially if Tua can kind of stay healthy for a while. They've just been destroyed by backup quarterback play here these last couple of years. They can't really seem to get it right. And with Tua, it's almost not if, it's when he goes down. So if they can find a way to hold water here, the few games Tua misses, I think they could be in a pretty solid spot with those two guys. I think between the two of them, I think one of them should be able to work out pretty well.
Yeah, I love the Quinn Ewers bet for them. I really do. Like if you feel like Mike McDaniels is your guy going forward, which I'm not sure they do feel that way, but if you do, I think Ewers is the perfect developmental project for him. I said all through the draft, like Ewers' arm talent is clear as day, right?
Yeah, he's got talent for those.
Steve Sarkisian's offenses are just messy. They just are. He's doing a lot of weird stuff. He's doing a lot of stuff that's really requiring a lot of reads of the quarterback, from what I can tell. And like, he wasn't good in it. But also, I just question who is good in what quarterbacks do look really good in the Steve Sarkisian offense when you're not running it like Georgia did back in the day when it was really just all a bunch of tunnel screens.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would say his quick release is like really feels like a key trigger for this offense if he can get the mental side down. Now, Tua is a phenomenal processor. That's how he wins. That plus the quick release. So Ewers, the processor, is the big question. But like, if you believe that's there and it can be coached up to a better that's more like a muscle that needs to be exercised than I guess a ligament that is just not there.
Yeah.
Like if it's a muscle that you think you can exercise enough, then I really do think Quinn Ewers has a good shot to stick with this team as long as McDaniels is there.
Yep, I agree. And like I said, I mean, hopefully they can find some production from the games that Tua misses. All right, then moving on to running back room, bringing in Alexander Mattinson, and then Raheem Mostert out the door. He didn't have the nicest things to say about this organization.
Nope, he did not. He did not. He was not happy about it.
Yeah, so maybe be some unhappiness there, but so Devon Achane coming into year 3 now. He's so hard to judge his running style and everything. Like he's so good at times, but
super boom bust. Like it's
super boomer bust. Yeah.
Like I mean, he had 1,500 scrimmage yards last year and 12 touchdowns, but like his rush yards over expected was one of the worst in the league because of how much that he took losses.
And then Jalen Wright, we kind of talked about a second ago. We both loved him last year coming out. I really thought he was
gonna get some run here this year. I just think he was in a really crowded backfield.
And then we kind of talked about that last year in the draft that felt kind of weird, but now, I mean, it's kind of cleared up a little bit. I mean, he's the 2 to 3 option at worst, so definitely get some opportunities there. So hopefully they'll be able to find a way to more consistently run the ball this year. But really got to figure out this offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they took some strides in what they did. I think that they upgraded both, or at least one of the guard spots. They lost what was his name? He went to the Cowboys. He's a Cowboys backup now, but he has actually risen up pretty. Robert Jones. They lost Robert Jones at guard, who I don't think was a world beater, but like that dude could just bully some people. But you bring on James Daniels, who's recovering from an injury. James Daniels has been a rock solid player in this league. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's shocking anybody with his play, but he's a very consistent football player, in my opinion. And Jonas Savanea, they traded up for him. I didn't agree with the trade up because they only had 2 picks in the top 100 because of it.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be a fine guard in this league. So, like, again, I do think you added some nice players there on your interior with kind of very contrasting players. Like James Daniels is more of an athlete, like zone blocker, while Savanea, he can do some of that. But, I mean, he's just a massive body. Like, that's why you draft Jonas Savanea. It's for his width. He's just a massive human being. Austin Jackson, I think, is a fine offensive tackle. Aaron Brewer, I will always have concerns about his pass protection. He's always going to be a plus run blocker, but he's like 270 pounds. That I will always have questions about how that's going to hold up against a Tavondre Sweat or what's the guy, Jordan Davis, like a 350
big body guy
who has 80 pounds on him. I just don't really understand the physics of how that will work. Patrick Paul is my big question, though. I have real concerns about Patrick Paul playing left tackle for you in an offense that is very reliant on the run game and the run blocking working as it should. I didn't like this guy's run blocking at Houston at all. From what I saw, I didn't see a lot that I really loved about his tape last year. He has extremely long arms. He's huge. So, like, the pass protection side, there's plenty to like about his upside there. But the run blocking, I never saw it with him. So I have questions about how he fits in here. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised they didn't draft an offensive tackle in this draft because I thought they would want some competition for Patrick Paul here. But they
it's got another body in there.
Yeah, I mean, when Larry Borum is your top competition, I'm a little worried because I've watched 4 years of Larry Borum as a Bears fan. It's not fun. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
Maybe he's more motivated in Miami. He didn't seem very motivated last year, and it looked pretty awful on tape. But his earlier years, it was like there were some more flashes, but still it just kind of felt like this guy's a swing tackle at best type thing. You don't really want him starting.
Yeah, and one good thing historically, players go to Miami and become more motivated by football because there's nothing to do there.
That's the fact. That's the fact. Now,
one guy who's not on here, kind of going back to running back for a little bit, Ollie Gordon coming out of Oklahoma State. He was 2 years ago incredible at Oklahoma State. Basically, was their offense was one of the top 5-6 guys on the Heisman list going into the season. Not a great season by any means last year at Oklahoma State. Whole team was kind of disappointing. So I kind of like that value there at 179. I think there's obviously something there. I mean, you saw it 2 years ago.
Dude, maybe coming tape last year. Like, it wasn't as explosive, but you know what? That's a dude who's a 3-down back. He can pass block,
absolute
he can catch the
workhorse.
rock, he can run routes, and he can plow through a linebacker. Like, I'm watching his tape this past year, and I'm like, why is this guy not a top 100 pick? I know he had the DUI, but like I know his efficiency was down last year. That offense was a mess. If you watch Oklahoma State, he was the offense.
All over the place.
I think he was a steal at 179, and it would not shock me if at some point this year, even if it's just for like a 3 or 4 game stretch, he just goes crazy for this offense. Like, he's just the steady meter of like, we just need someone who can gain consistent yards because A-Chain and Wright are so boom bust with their runs.
Yep. So that's one thing to be excited if you're a Miami fan. And then also, I mean, it's always exciting when you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill opposite of each other. Bringing in Nick Westbrook-Ikini, like you talked about.
And Malik Washington's a really fun football player, too. He is really dangerous with the ball in his hands.
And his brother Taj there with him.
Yeah, always about the brothers,
Always about the brothers. So, yeah, I mean, we know this offense is a lot of fun. We know Mike McDaniel's going to do some fun things, but we really need to find a way to be consistent, whether it's consistent in the run game, consistent in the pass game, find some health. And that's kind of like what you were talking about with the offensive line. How do you not go get somebody else to compete out there, put some pressure on some of these guys and have a true competition, especially when you have an undersized quarterback who has concussion issues.
I mean, and even like Tua was 6-5 last year, and 3 of those losses were a game where he got injured, and the 2 games right after he returned from injury.
Yep.
So, like, I mean, when Tua's there, this offense does work.
It clicks, yes, but yeah, you gotta find ways to win when he's hurt, because, like I said, it's not if, it's when, and you gotta find some consistency there. But is there anything else about this offense? Anybody want to talk about any of these rookies? I mean, they have a whole slew of them over here.
No, I mean, not much on the rookies. I honestly didn't watch many of these guys. They're a lot of late round
guys, yeah.
And tight end is just a giant black hole, kind of like Darren Waller was awesome 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I don't know what you're actually getting with.
Yeah, what are we getting from Darren Waller? Was last year the first year he was gone, or has it been 2 years since he's played?
I think last year was the first year.
Oh, okay. So I mean,
and hey, I'm intrigued by Mike McDaniel with Darren Waller. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I am interested. I just don't know if I'm just not buying it yet. I need to see the proof first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So could be something exciting, but like I said, I mean, it's Mike McDaniel. We're gonna have some exciting times with this offense, and I do love going and doubling down on backup quarterbacks. I like what they do. Wide receiver, I like what they do at running back. So should be a fun team. Offensively, It always is.
Defensively,
do they have corners? It's
almost as perplexing, like, because they don't have corners. Storm Duck is your number one corner, like, or Cater Kohu, I guess, might be your number one corner. Like,
what a name.
Kohu's okay. Like, I think Kohu can play, but like, they're so far from where you need to be at corner that I'm legitimately like, I don't know if they can. And here's where that can get equalized. Like, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, plus Zach Sealer. And if Kenneth Grant does anything, that's a pretty nasty D line. And that's assuming Jalen Phillips is back to himself, coming off the Achilles. I think it was Achilles. But Chop Robinson takes a year 2 step and Bradley Chubb stays healthy. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, they're good. They should be able to get after the passer there. What do you think about this defensive line's run capabilities? Because we have 3 teams in the division that are going to want to run the football.
I mean, I think Benito Jones is just a fine nose tackle. Like you can do better, you can do worse. I liked the addition of Jordan Phillips in the draft. I think that he has a really nice future if he develops, but I'm not sure what you're getting out of him in year 1. So I don't love that depth behind him. I think Matthew Butler's fine depth. Zach Sealer is a good football player, but like two-way, like run or pass, he can play the ball. And Kenneth Grant needs to be a guy. Like, if they want to stop the run well, Kenneth Grant needs to be a dude. And I am not totally sold that he will be right away.
Yeah. So go to linebackers. Jordan Brooks, Texas Tech legend. Dog.
Hey, he can play the run great. He is is just a bullet down.
High volume tackler, yeah. Doesn't miss a whole lot of tackles. So, yeah, I mean, I like this defensive line. I think the linebackers are fine. It's going to be this defensive back room that really concerns me. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's been an all-pro in this league. He's fantastic. He started his time in Miami. But you were kind of talking about it when we first started, being that single high safety. That's not really where he's excelled historically. And it seems like it's going to be the role he's going to play here too.
Yeah, I think he can do it well. I just don't think it's where his
It's not his strength.
value is maximized,
Yeah.
Because I think he's as good as any single high safety you're finding out there outside of like the true center field ball hawks. I'm just not sure that that's what he is. I think he's better when you move him around all over the formation or all over the personnel package. Now, Artie Burns, I'm kind of confused. So he did play a decent amount in the slot 2 years ago. He has 280 career snaps in the slot. And I'm really concerned about him being your slot corner. Like, I mean, slot is so different from the outside, because in the outside, you have the sideline as a boundary, right? Like, you have the sideline is essentially a defender. You know the player can't get further than that. In the slot, you need to be physically and mentally ready to go either direction, especially when you're pressed up. That's really difficult. Like, and I'm just not sure Artie Burns is the guy you want here. And so if this is correct, as Artie Burns is your nickel, that's a big red flag to me. If it's incorrect and it's Kendall Sheffield or help Jason Marshall Jr. or Cam Smith or Cater Kohu, I thought had been a pretty good slot at times, but so maybe that's what we're going to see here when they're in nickel. Cater Kohu's going to kick inside to the slot and Artie Burns will be your outside. Yeah,
because Artie Burns played outside whenever he was in Pittsburgh, didn't he?
He's really only played outside. He played a little inside with Seattle, but like he only played 200 snaps that entire year.
Yeah.
So that's got to be what's happening. Cater Kohu's going to have to be your nickel. He has played almost exclusively nickel in his career, so that's a mistype on the depth chart. Thank you, our lads and ESPN, for leading me astray. But anyways. At safety, I mean, Melifanu, I don't know if he can do much split safety, single high stuff. So yeah, Minka's your guy as your deep center fielder when you're running single high stuff, and I think he'll eat when they're in too high. Like I think Minka can eat too high.
Yeah, I agree. So looking at this team going forward this season, we have Bills, who I mean we both consider top 3 team in the AFC. I think most people would. Mm-hmm. You have, in my opinion, a team on the rise in the New England Patriots, and then you have the Jets, who are the Jets. So looking at this Miami team in this division, you have 8.5 win total at plus 155 on the over, minus 180 on the under, playoffs at plus 210, division 7-1, Super Bowl 75-1. If everything goes right for this team or everything goes wrong, I could see this team bottoming out at 3-14, and I could see this team playing to the best it can be, going about 11 and I think 11-6, 12-5 is what we're looking at if everything goes right here. So what are you thinking on these futures?
If the plus money was on the unders and the nose, I'd be betting that, but it's not. The plus money's on the over in the playoffs. So I'm taking over 8.5 at plus 155, and I'm taking playoffs at plus 210 because they have the firepower to do it.
Yeah.
If it was flipped, though, I'd be taking the unders. I'm just chasing the plus money at this point with them.
Yeah, chasing those plus on. So, I mean, I do think the AFC outside, I think it's really, really top heavy. I think when you start looking at the 3 wild card teams and where they can come from, I think Miami has as good of a shot as any of those wild card opportunity teams. So yeah, I don't hate the playoffs at plus 210 at all. I like that a lot.
The weird factor here becomes what's the culture, because there are some culture red flags here with Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, what is the culture?
I don't know, but like, I mean, I keep defaulting back to I believe Mike McDaniels is an extremely smart offensive mind, and he's coaching for his job. And I think he's going to pull out all the stops to make sure they win some games. But like, I don't know how accountable guys are being held in that building, and I don't know how, like, where that ends up. That becomes a big wild card here to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if we see Mike McDaniel maybe move on after this year, go back to being an OC or something somewhere, have a lot of success and maybe have a better like career, I guess. Second time head coach.
He can come to Chicago, be Ben Johnson's run game coordinator. I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'd drop everything he's doing right now and go to do that.
All right, let's move on. Let's get to those Mike Vrabel led New England Patriots.
Yeah, so right off the bat, I love the addition of Milton Williams here in New England, coming and bolster up that D-line, especially with Mike Vrabel as the head coach. Stephon Diggs can take it or leave it for me. I don't think he's the same Stephon Diggs, but he gives you a true one out there for a young quarterback in Drake May. So I understand it. I don't think he's obviously not a long-term piece. He's probably close to 10-year veteran at this point, if it's not already there. So, I like some of the moves in the offseason. Carlton Davis coming in at corner. I like the way Mike Vrabel builds teams. I mean, he likes to get nasty with it. I mean, he's a lot like Dan Campbell in that aspect. So, looking at this offense, okay, you bring in Will Campbell. So is Will Campbell going to be your starting left tackle here?
That seems to be the plan for them from everything I've seen. Now, I mean, if any Patriots fans are watching, drop in the comments. Let us know if we're wrong about that. My understanding is Will Campbell is your left tackle.
Okay, and then Cole Strange, legend of the show, Cole Strange, called that he was predicted to be a first-round pick before anybody else thought he was. Right here on our show by a New England Patriot fan who ended up not being happy with the pick. He said, I thought somebody would get him. I thought somebody would get it. I just didn't think it would be us.
Yeah. I mean, are we just jumping into O-line now?
Oh, I was just kind of breaking down this offense as a whole. If we want to start with the line, we can, and then we get to the quarterback, and then I like this running back room too.
Let's start with Drake May. Let's do that first.
It begins and ends with Drake May.
It does.
My cousin.
Spelled different, but feels the same.
Yes, sir. So I really like Drake May. I mean, I know everybody talks about looking at these year two quarterbacks. All the discussion is on Caleb. All the discussion is on Jaden Daniels if he can repeat what he did last year. I thought Drake May was solid last year on a pretty bad team, and I think if you're a New England Patriot fan going into the 2025 season, I think you have a lot of high hopes for Drake May. I think the pressure is kind of off. You have a first year head coach, but a veteran coach. He knows the city, and I mean he built a pretty solid foundation.
He knows how to build
in Tennessee. Yep. So I mean, usually when we're looking at not first year head coaches, but a new head coach coming in for a second year quarterback, it's not usually the best, but I mean, I feel like this works. Josh McDaniels coming back. I feel like he's just forever going to be the New England Patriots offensive coordinator at this point.
Is he good?
Josh McDaniels?
Yeah.
Tom Brady was good.
Tom Brady was good.
So you look at Mac Jones, okay? Was Mac the very, very small success that Mac Jones had, was that Mac Jones being decent, or was that McDaniels getting the most out of him?
I think it was McDaniels getting the most out of him generally, but I still end up questioning, but would that have been sustainable in year two? Because I watched the same thing happen with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, hard to tell. I wouldn't want I wouldn't want Josh McDaniels running my organization, but
running your offense,
running my offense. historically speaking, you're going to be in a pretty good spot there.
I'm with you. I agree. I'm playing devil's advocate on some of that. I mean, I think McDaniel's a good offensive mind, and I think Vrabel is a strong enough head coach, a very strong culture setter.
It's a valid question, though. I mean, majority of his resume is Tom Brady.
Yeah. I mean,
so
Tom Brady and failures as a head coach, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we know about him. Made the playoffs with Mac Jones, so
yeah. Now, I mean, I'm with you on Drake, man. I'm excited to see he had some circus plays last year. This dude can ball. I mean, there's coming out of college and still some last year. He has some sprays. He has some throws where it's like, where on earth was that going? But more often than not, he's in a good spot. And probably more than he sprays stuff, he pulls some wild plays out of his ass. I was like, how the hell did he do that?
Pretty good athlete, too.
Yeah. And pretty impressive family background.
Yeah. His brother hit the game-winning shot at North Carolina.
And his other brother won a national championship in college baseball at Florida as a pitcher. And his other brother walked on to North Carolina's basketball team after some freak knee injury in high school.
Yeah. So, family of champions.
And he's the youngest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I'm excited to see what he does this year. I am still a little weary about the offensive talent around him, but if he takes a year or two step, it might not matter that much.
Yeah, I think. I mean, so when we talked about Tennessee, I talked about at the end of the year. I think they might not win the most games, but I think everybody in Tennessee is going to be happy with the trajectory of the team. And I do think this defense is going to be good. We'll get to that in a second, but I think this offense is going to maybe show strides, but there's going to be times where they struggle. But I think you're going to be going into year 3 of Drake May, and there's going to be a lot of high hopes on this team. So going through the offense right now, I mean, Ramondre Stevenson's been one of the more solid running backs in the league now for what feels like 5 years.
Been able to stay on the field. He's been rock solid.
Yeah. Travion Henderson, one of my favorite running backs coming out of the draft. The dude can just fly. I feel like he has pretty good run blocking too, coming out of Ohio State, or pass blocking, excuse me. And I mean, you get that kid into open field and ain't nobody touching him.
Yeah. I mean, heck, I do they have some dynamic athleticism here between Henderson, Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas.
I like Kyle Williams a lot too.
Interesting athletes here to work with.
Mac Hollins, I feel like Mac Hollins. I mean, he's real goofy. I mean, he's always posting on social media and stuff about all this crazy things, but people seem to love him. He seems like a good culture guy. Wide receiver 3. I mean, we just talked about it with Anthony about how physical he likes to get in the run blocking and everything. So really good, solid piece there at wide receiver 3. Stephon Diggs. I mean, I don't think he has to be Stephon Diggs of 3-4 years ago, but gonna need to see him step up and be that
some of that pink powder. He might be.
Absolutely. But yeah, we're gonna have to see Stephon Diggs step up and be that true wide receiver 1 for a year 2 quarterback. And I think they can find success here.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a bit bipolar of an offense. They're not going
to have some ups and downs.
But I think they have enough here to win games as long as Drake May takes a step. My biggest concern is with this O-line. I mean, Morgan Moses has been around forever, and he's a fine offensive tackle, but he's not elevating anyone's play out there. I think very highly of Mike Onwenu. That's the one guy I do feel really good about on this O-line. But Garrett Bradbury, there's a reason he's gone from the Vikings. He's fine, but he's definitely not in that upper echelon of centers in the league. And Cole Strange has not really panned out the way they wanted him to. And Will Campbell, I think, is a question at left tackle until he proves otherwise, because I didn't love his left tackle tape. So we'll see how this all comes together. I do think primarily if Will Campbell can prove that the arm length is a non-issue at left tackle, I think this O-line can come together. And
Was
Paperwaves
it Vrab?
in the comments says Will Campbell is dope. I agree. Will Campbell is dope. His college tape was fun, but like I had questions about his ability to transition that to the NFL because of his upright play style, the amount that he lets guys into his chest, and that arm length. I'm not sure how it is all going to transition to the next level.
Yeah, I like Will Campbell. I mean, I think he loves to talk to the media, so I think he played well at LSU. I mean, the Paperwaves, 24 straight games without a sack in the SEC. Will Campbell will be fine. We hope so. But if not, then I don't know what you do at that position. So
So here was my big thing with Will Campbell. Like, I liked his tape. I wanted to like him more than I did because of those transition questions, because I don't love him at guard. I like him a lot more at tackle than guard. But those questions I still have are at tackle. So it becomes a weird area where I'm like, but I don't know where he transitions well to if it's not tackle. And when you have that arm length question and his play style that allows guys into his chest, history says that doesn't translate great. But his feet are extremely fast. He seems to have the work ethic. He has great power, a good anchor. Like, there's a lot of reasons to believe that Will Campbell will succeed. So I'm with you there on Paperwaves. I need, as a non-fan of your team, not a hater of your team, but someone who's just not a fan, I need to see it before I'm buying it, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the culture they're building there, I think that's going to help. And I think not having the highest expectations coming into year 2 of Drake May, not saying that they don't want to go out there and win games, but I don't think anybody's realistically sitting there thinking Super Bowl or bust, we have to go win this division. I think you just want to see strides everywhere across the team and build for the future. So that kind of gives young guys more time to develop rather than feeling like it's all on me type deal.
Yeah. And yeah, I think if this team is competing for a wild card spot down the stretch, you feel pretty good about what they're doing and like them going into year 3 of Drake May. But let's move on to where I think the strength of this team is the defense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you want to start at defensive back or if you want to start on defensive line, but
I always prefer starting a defensive line. Just
okay.
I like my trenches. I'm with defensive back. Usually it's like I watched it and like I pay attention to it and I try to understand it, but like I understand the trenches, like that's where my heart is.
So the big acquisition of the offseason, Milton Williams. What do you think about him coming over from Philadelphia?
I think he's overpaid, but I think that's what you pay to get a guy who can sack the quarterback and get some pressures. Like, I don't think he's the best. Yeah. I don't think he's the best defensive line. I think he might be the 3rd best defensive lineman on this team, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like he could be an anchor for him there. So, and championship experience. So, bring in a little bit of that culture with you, along with Mike Vrabel and his rings too. So, I'm excited to see what he does, especially being led by a guy like Vrabel. So, what else about this defensive line? Who do you like? Who do you think can really pop this year?
I mean, I think the trio of Keon White, Christian Barmore, and Milton Williams is extremely nasty. Like, as long as Christian Barmore is coming back from this blood clot issue, being the dude he was before, this defensive line is going to eat. These guys can bully people. Keon White is a bully in the best possible way. Like, I love watching him play football. He's just a maniac out there, an animal, and he's a brick shit house. Like, the way this dude can punch through people is just, he's so explosive and so powerful with his hands, and he just creates that power from his feet up through his hands. Just like, can get through you if you're just an average offensive lineman. I don't think it's really come through in the stats yet for him, But I don't care. This guy is physical and he hurts you. And like to me, I want a bruiser in there, and that's what Keon White is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love this defensive line, and I mean, this just feels like a Vrabel team already, and we haven't even gotten into year one hasn't even really started yet. So, what do you think? What do you think about these edge rushers they have?
Well, and just still on defensive tackle, I forgot one guy, Joshua Farmer. I loved his tape too. I think he's a converted edge rusher. He converted while at Florida State. He had one of the best backstories in the draft. Not best. He had one of the most heartbreaking backstories in the draft. If you haven't looked into Joshua Farmer's background, like he comes from he lost both his parents at a young age, was going through the system and all of that. And it's just a really heartbreaking story about him. I don't want to say it all. Go Google it, go check it out. But the fact that he's gotten here is really impressive. And the fact that he did that while changing a position from edge to defensive tackle, adding a bunch of weight, and still being a really effective defensive tackle at the college level, I'm buying Joshua Farmer stock 100%. I'm not sure if it's going to hit this year, but down the road, I think he's going to be a really good football player. And in the edge room, I think they're pretty mediocre, to be honest. But when you have this defensive tackle room, I think you're going to find ways. Harold Landry can get sacks in this league. We know this. There's not a lot of question there. I think Braden Swinson was a good value pick for them. I think Anthony Jennings can be okay. This edge room isn't impressing me, but it's also enough for what the defensive tackle room is.
Yeah, and I like the rotation here. Is this year 3 for Chason?
At
LSU?
I think more than that. I think 4 or 5.
Oh, has it been that long? Yeah, I just remember loving him in that draft. It feels more recent, I guess.
Let's see. Yeah, he was drafted in 2020, so this is year 6 for him.
Shit. So it doesn't.
He never really panned out.
Yeah. So, Paperwave's still with us talking year 5.
That's
said Edge needs some work. I wouldn't roll out a Clowney joining. Yeah, Clowney just seems to be kind of like the mercenary these days. I mean, he just signs 1 year's deals all around the league.
I think Clowney would be a great ad for this defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And was he in Tennessee the same time as Vrabel or right after?
I think same time.
Yeah, so a little bit of a connection there. Yeah, I mean, I think that would definitely add immediate rotation depth. And, I mean, we talked about it when we were talking about the Bills, but if you need a bucket, Clowney's the guy that can get you a bucket, especially if he's not playing every snap of the game.
Yeah, I mean, with a defensive tackle room like this, I think Clowney can get you a bucket. When he needs to be your number one guy on the D-line, I don't think he's that guy. But, when he can play off of others and be given one-on-ones, watch out. I think he can play.
Yeah.
And then at linebacker, I like the Robert Spillane signing. I think that he is a guy who has played well for the Raiders the last few years and kind of gone under the radar as a really lanky player who can kind of just move in space pretty fluidly and really just deliver some pain on some hits. I really like Robert Spillane's a fun football player to watch.
Yeah. And then, okay, so bringing in Carlton Davis, I love. Christian Gonzalez, I mean, we kind of talked about it with the Ravens a couple of weeks ago about how players just fall into their laps. I still don't know how Christian Gonzalez fell to where he did and ended up on this team. And I mean, he was an immediate impact player. He was incredible for the Patriots. So he's just an absolute stud back there. And then Jabril Peppers at safety. I mean, I felt like he's finally coming into his own as well. He was kind of a guy who came in as that Swiss Army knife type of gadget player that nobody really knew where he was gonna fit in. He kind of bounced around, went to the Giants, went to the Browns, but I feel like he's starting to really develop into a good safety in this league. So I like this defensive back room. I love this defensive line. And with a guy like Vrabel, I mean, I think this team's dangerous.
Yeah, talking like the cornerbacks, I think Carlton Davis is a good ad. I do think there's some injury questions there at his age, but I don't love the depth behind him for that. But like Christian Gonzalez is a true number one corner in this league, I believe. I think Marcus Jones is a fine nickel, and with the safeties they have, I think you'll be able to figure out CB2. I don't think it's going to be a giant Achilles heel for you because of how much talent this defense has overall. And when talking about the blue chip players here, like
Shout
if
out
Christian, Craig Woodson's a fun football player. I liked his tape at Cal, but Christian Barmore, if he is like Paper Waves was saying, if he's looking like the same guy, he would be a blue chip here. I just couldn't give him blue chip till I see it. And personally, like I have not watched a lot of Kyle Duggar tape the last 2 years, but based on the tape I saw 3 years ago, I wanted to give him blue chips. Kyle Duggar is so much fun, and Jabril Peppers fits in the same mold of player, and I think that I just need to see how this defense operates because both Duggar and Peppers were such like unique safeties in the Patriots defense as a pass under Belichick that they played such a different scheme that I need to see how these guys are deployed before I'm willing to give either of them blue chips here. But like, I think if they're deployed the same type of way, I might be there for them.
Yeah. So looking at this team going forward, if there's a team that comes out of this division that's not the Bills into the playoffs, we just talked about Miami, and I think Miami's really boom or bust. I think this team has a lot higher floor. Maybe the ceiling isn't as high as a team like the Dolphins, who can go out there and score 1 million points. But I mean, I trust Mike Vrabel to get this team right. I trust him to go out there and win close games whenever it gets nasty. He proved it in Tennessee. I mean, I felt like they were never out of it. So I really like this team. So when we're looking at win total, 7.5 wins, -160, under +135, playoffs at +154, division at 5-1, Super Bowl 70-1. I'll probably take playoffs for this team.
Yeah, it's the only bet that I'm really willing to put money on with this. Like I feel like their offense could cost them a few games here or there, but like their defense might win them a few games here or there. And if Drake May truly does take a step, then the offense might not cost him a few games. So like playoffs +154 is the only bet I'm really interested in on this board.
Yeah, kind of talked about it with the Dolphins too. I mean, I think the wild card opportunities in the AFC are pretty wide open, and you give me a well-coached team that if you can get solid quarterback play with a good defense, I'll take that bet every time.
We got Paper Wave saying his ceiling for them is 11 wins and floor is 8 wins. And I think that's kind of probably a little lower than that. I'm probably like 10-7, but like
I was in that 7 to 10 range, but I mean it's a coin flip league a lot of times. I mean, so really just splitting hairs there at 7 to 10, 8 to 11. So yeah, I mean I kind of agree with him. I mean I think they're going to win the games they're supposed to win. I think they're going to steal a couple of games, and then maybe drop
formula, right?
Maybe drop a game in like mid-November after coming off a big win to like a bad Jets team or something. Like just kind of seems like what Tennessee would do at times, and they're a pretty young team too. So I mean, they might get too high after 3 or 4 wins and just give us a stinker on Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football or something after they've been playing hot. But like I said at the beginning of this, I mean, I think New England Patriots fans are going to be going into year 3 of Drake May, a lot of confidence, and maybe really, really challenge the Bills, try to take their division back.
Yeah, I see that. I think Vrabel is probably going to have these guys foaming at the mouth against the Bills. So
yeah, it's an exciting team. Love the defense. Really, if I'm a Patriots fan, more than anything, you just want to see the growth of Drake May going into coming out of this season. So I think it's gonna. Yep, I think it's gonna be there for him.
All right, let's close this thing out with the New York Football Jets.
It seems like we get one of these every week. Okay, Jets. All right. looking at this
Yes,
roster,
yes.
I mean, you had back-to-back Rookie of the Years a couple of years ago with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Sauce, I mean, it's hard to live up to kind of the hype and talent and productivity and everything he had coming straight into the league. You're going to see a little bit of regression there more times than not. So I don't think he fell off horribly last year, but I mean, he's a guy that you really want to see probably play a little bit more consistently. You know what I'm trying to say. But then Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, his rookie year, he got away with a lot of grabbing. The officials kind of cracked down on him, and there was a bit of a learning curve there. But like, I think he's still a stud. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I think you get two studs on this team. You have Sauce Gardner and you have Garrett Wilson, and
Quentin Williams.
Quentin Williams is still a stud. Yeah, we'll get to D-line here in a minute. But so looking at the overall just structure of this team, I guess Justin Fields is going to be your quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor. Punctured lung, Tyrod Taylor. So it's going to be fun, okay? I mean, you have Justin Fields, you have Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson. You have Lazard at the slot. I mean, I think it's going to be fun. You have a first-year head coach. I think you have a good defensive coordinator in Steve Wilkes. If you're a Jets fan, I think you just want to see some competency. You want to see some structure. It's hard playing in New York.
So here is my big question with Justin Fields. He is something just like atrocious when his team gives up more than when he's starting and his team gives up more than 21 points. Like, I want to say it was like 0-20 something.
Yeah.
When his team gives up more than 21 or more points. Their OC Paperwaves is Tanner Engstrand. He was the pass game coordinator, I believe, for the Lions last year. Yeah, he was speculated to be Ben Johnson's replacement, but then he wasn't. So, like, that is a good hire for them. But, like, Justin Fields has shown you he does not win games when the defense gives up 21 plus points over how many games has he started? Like, let's see.
Shit. Quite a bit now at this point.
Yeah, he's 44 starts. Like, and Fields is a lot of fun. Like, as a Bears fan, I had more fun watching a 3-14 Justin Fields led team than anyone has any business having. Because, like, it was like the explosive plays were constantly right around the corner. But
yeah,
it never resulted in wins. Now, that team was awful that went 3-14. Like, that, there was no help. There was no Garrett Wilson. There was like Olu Fashanu and Armand Membo would have been dreams to have. Same with Tippmann and like, you know,
Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah. But at the same time, like last year with the Steelers, even you saw a lot of the same limitations for Justin Fields. So my question is, how much are they going to get him into positions as a runner? And how much will that wear him down over the course of the year? Because when watching Justin Fields, there's always this cycle, right? The start of the year, he's fast as all get out. He's impossible to stop running the football. And as a thrower, like he can hit deep balls like nobody's business. It's the quick game that is more his issue. The short game, the quick game, which is what you need to live on in the NFL. Like you need to be able to hit that stuff, and he struggled with it. But by like the 5th or 6th game, you could see Justin Fields wasn't as fast anymore. His speed was deteriorating. And then he'd get hurt, be out for three games, comes back, and he's back to full speed. He's back fast as ever. And it's this cycle of like every 5 games, it's like he's just starting to lose that speed. And then he becomes less and less of a threat with the legs, and that takes away stuff from the offense. So how they're able to manage that as an offense is going to matter a lot for their success, in my opinion.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and start breaking down this offense, starting at the offensive line. So, offensive line here, I think they're pretty good on the inside, and if they can get good solid play from Fashanu and Mimbo on the bookends there, I think they could have something to build on here.
Yeah, I mean, so on the inside, Vera Tucker staying healthy is going to be huge. He stayed healthy most of last year for the first time in 3 years, but so need to see him do that again. I think Joe Tippmann is on his way to becoming one of the 5 good centers in the NFL. Right now, there's only 4. Tippmann is on his way to becoming the 5th. He's very close to me to being that guy. And Simpson, to me, he's fine. He's a fine left guard. Like I'm not excited about John Simpson. I'm not upset about him. He's okay. Fashanu, I need to see him take a step specifically as a run blocker. Out of Penn State, his pass blocking was beautiful. His run blocking was embarrassing, in my opinion. Or not embarrassing's too far, but it had a long way to go. And and last year, I did think as a rookie, he showed more want to and more physicality as a run blocker. I need to see that continue for him because he has the physical tools. And Armand Membo, frankly, I was a hater on him in the draft this year. The physical tools are awesome. They're fun. They're great. There were too many moments where I was sitting there scratching my head going, what the hell was he doing on this play? So I need to see with both these tackles, I just had a lot of those questions in the run game of why did you do it? Why are you pausing? Why are you waiting for something? And that makes me hesitate with both of them. They're both physically about as good as you find. So this O-line is so physically talented. It's just a question of how the coaching and the players come together to create a good product.
Yeah, and Paper Waves just said something that I was about to bring up. I think they have a good base here, something to build on. We'll see with Justin Fields. I mean, I don't think anybody in New York is thinking about Justin Fields in a long-term agreement with the team. So I think what is really important is keeping Garrett Wilson healthy and happy, keeping him around, seeing what you got in this offensive line. I mean, we know Breece Hall's a stud, but I mean, if you were going to trade somebody, I think you'd trade Breece Hall.
Dude, if Breece Hall's on this roster and you play fantasy, buy that stock. Justin Fields is going to up his yards per carry by a full yard.
Yeah,
I'm playing 10 on 11. Breece Hall's going to get yards.
Yeah, I like the skill position room. I mean, Josh Reynolds, Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson. So I definitely think they're going to have some opportunities here. But I mean, it's just been so dysfunctional. I mean, it's hard to have a whole lot of faith moving forward. But I mean, if you're a Jets fan, it seems like they're, especially after the Aaron Rodgers era, it felt like he kind of burned everything to the ground from the outside looking in. But then you kind of look deeper into this roster, and it's like, well, they are kind of set up pretty well. For the future.
I think the offense has a lot of potential going forward. I don't really love their pass catchers. Garrett Wilson's awesome. Outside of that, they have two designated blockers essentially, and Josh Reynolds and Allen Lazard, who can be sacrificial X's or big slots for you, but I don't think they're actually winning a whole lot on the outside for you. And then Mason Taylor gives me a little pause too because I'm not sure what he's really giving you as a blocker. And I think that he's going to take a year or two to get where he needs to as a pass catcher. Again, physical talent's incredible, but I don't think that on tape he's where he needs to be. So I do think this offense is a year away from really clicking in my mind, at least.
Yeah, and we might see another rookie quarterback coming in here for probably going to be another top 5 rookie quarterback coming in for the 3rd time in the last 10 years. So,
yeah. And then defensively, this thing kind of got gutted.
Yeah.
They still have some good players, but a year ago, they looked like they had one of the deepest D lines in the NFL, and now it's
Quinn Williams and
I mean,
so Will
Yeah,
Will McDonald showed some flashes. I mean,
love him. I love him.
Loved him coming out of college. He's definitely. I feel like his best games are really, really good. I feel like he kind of disappears a little bit sometimes, but he's still young and he can definitely get better.
I mean, he did come in the league a little older. I think it was a 24-year-old rookie, so that made the whole his trajectory tough because he sat for like 2 years behind guys who it's like, why did the Jets draft him? It was a weird, like, why draft a 24-year-old rookie for him to be your second string? Like, that doesn't really track. But like, I've always felt like Will McDonald can be a bucket getter for you as a sack man. Like, he has the moves, he has the physical tools to, when you need a sack, to go get a sack. I don't think he's shown it a ton. I do think he put up a good amount of sacks last year. His PFF grade didn't really track with it, as did like his pass rush win rates and stuff like that. But I still believe in Will McDonald a lot purely as a pass rusher. I think he struggles to hold up against the run because of his size. But outside of that, like, Quinnen Williams he's still a monster. He's still awesome. He needs to be the anchor of this D line. But beyond that, Jermaine Johnson hasn't been the guy you needed him to be as a first round pick. And then your depth at D tackle and at edge is just, it's tough. We're looking at Byron Cowart and Fidarian Mathis being guys who are going to get serious snaps. You need to consider whether you need more help at defensive tackle, in my opinion. Larry Taylor, I think, has a very bright future as long as he can keep his nose clean and keep putting in the work. I still can't believe Leonard Taylor III went undrafted 2 years ago. His physical talent is outrageous, but at the same time, like, he's listed as third on their depth chart right now. Maybe that's incorrect from ESPN or our lads, but like, I think there's a reason this coaching staff's going to put his feet to the fire, and we'll see how he responds.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to see some good rotation here out of this D line to be successful.
And then, from who though? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's the Quinnen Williams show, like Will McDonald. I still like, but outside of that, like, who's rotating? Like, what are we doing? They got gutted. Yeah,
and then looking at these linebackers, Quincy Williams, Sherwood, and Jamin Davis. I mean, I think it's a fine linebacking room. I mean, nothing really sticks out to me, but I don't think there's really liabilities out there anywhere either.
I think Quincy Williams is a good thumper. I think Jamie and Sherwood's fine. I don't have a whole lot to say beyond that. Like, they're linebackers, they're kind of disposable in the league right now, unless you're one of the top tier guys. And Quincy Williams, as good of a run stuffer as he is, I don't think he can do both moving forward and backwards very well. So like that makes him just a fine guy to me.
Yep. And then looking at the defensive back room, Sauce Gardner, blue chip corner in the league. I mean, top 5 corner for sure. And then Brandon Stevens, Michael Carter, Tony Adams, Andrew Sisko. They bring in Malachi Moore, Isaiah Thomas as well. So, I mean, I kind of talked about it already. I mean, I like this core group of guys they have. I think they have some good young talent here. So, I mean, I think they're in a decent spot moving forward. Worst case scenario, if you're a Jets fan, is you go out there and win 7 games next year.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be the team that's going out and winning a bunch of games next year if you're them. And like, if
Justin Fields goes absolutely fucking bananas, and you're a 10-win team, maybe you can make a magical run in the playoffs. But I think they might be just good enough to where they're going to have to give up assets to go find a quarterback, or kind of just be stuck in mediocrity.
Yeah, I do think Malachi Moore is going to be starting for this team by the end of the year. I think so highly of that dude's Alabama tape. I think he's a hell of a football player who can really be moved all around or play single high. Like, he's a very instinctive football player who really feels the game well and it plays with a lot of emotion, which is kind of a flag on him in the draft, but something I love to see. Like, I think he fell because of the Alabama Vanderbilt game last year when he got very upset at his teammates over something. But I adored the guy's tape.
Yeah. Yeah, some dogs. Quinn Williams' dog. All right, so looking at this team going forward, we're at a 5.5 win total, over -150, under +125, playoffs +440, division at 16-1, Super Bowl 20-1, 200-1.
Man, I want to believe in Aaron Glenn that he's gonna elevate this with culture shift and like being a former Jet himself, kind of knowing what needs to change in that building. But honestly, I'm taking the under just because I do not believe in Justin Fields' ability to win football games with this roster.
Yeah, I'm taking the under as well. I mean, I think if you're a Jets fan, hopefully you have some fun. Hopefully Justin Fields brings you a lot of joy and excitement, and then you have a top 5 pick in what is shaping up to be a pretty good quarterback class.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be their goal. Like we need to make sure we get a quarterback and like get some development out of Fashanu and Membu and like some of these young players. But like ultimately, this year is not about winning games for them to me.
I agree 100%. And retaining star talent that you have, keeping your star talent happy, and finding a quarterback of the future and moving forward, I think is the best trajectory for this team. But I mean, players don't like to lose, coaches don't like to lose, so it's not like they're just going to go out there and lay down. So
they're doing a job. They're paid to do a job, and that job comes down to wins and losses, you know.
But yeah, I would take that under at +125 as well, because I mean, I don't trust Justin Fields to go out there and win 6 games. I think they have a pretty tough division. Miami's solid. Buffalo's top 3 team in the AFC, and we just talked about the Patriots. I think they're going to be pretty good. So
I do think this coaching staff is going to have the defense roar in a few games, though. Like Steve Wilkes and Aaron Glenn is a nice combo defensively.
Yeah, I love the Steve Wilkes addition. So yeah, hopefully if you're a Jets fan, you don't. Worst case scenario, I think, is 7-10.
Yeah. Best case scenario is like 3 wins.
Yeah, and then slightly better is if Justin Fields just balls out and you maybe run it back with him. But I wouldn't feel too confident as a Jets fan if you decide to keep Justin Fields long term.
Man, he's 26. He's got to start slowing down the next year or two, right? Like, once he loses his wheels, it's done for him, I think. Like, unless he pulls a Geno, where it's just like he sits for a few years and really starts to see the game. There's too many trigger issues with him as far as like not pulling the trigger when he sees it.
Speaking of Geno, if he was on this team, how would you feel about it? Pretty good.
Geno finds a way, man. Geno's going to find a way. I'd feel pretty good.
Yeah,
with Geno.
Yeah,
I'd still have the defensive questions, but I don't know if Geno needs a defense to go win 8 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we don't condone switching of teams on this podcast.
Never.
Both lifelong fans. So. All right. Well, I think that'll about do it for us this week, unless you have anything else to talk about this division. We have a Super Bowl contender in this division. We have a couple of young teams, hopefully making some jumps and confidence moving forward, and then we have the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. I thought Miami was one of the young teams. You got me. This is an interesting division. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL, but it's definitely an interesting one. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think we get a wild card team out of this division, so I think should be pretty fun.
And shout out to Paper Waves. We enjoyed having you in the comments, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, NFC East, or 4 weeks NFC East.
We will do NFC East the week of the 21st. So 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Yeah. Going off to the Great White North.
Yep. I'll be in Scotland the next few weeks. So, but make sure to keep checking out our channel, because I have 4 videos scheduled to go out over the next 2 weeks of these breakdowns cut up with all 22 film input into them. And typically Paperwaves during the season, every single week we do 2 shows. One is a hour long. We go through every game, every spread, and talk our feelings about it. And then we do like a 10 to 15 minute quick breakdown of just our picks for the week. And after I get back from Scotland in late July, we'll be weekly till week 1.
Yeah, we'll be weekly. We'll be doing some fantasy talk before the season starts. We'll be doing probably episode on just futures, and then squeeze something else in there. But we're 9 weeks away from week 1, so it's right around the corner.
Yeah, yes, sir. And again, make sure to go check out our videos on our channel, because we have each of these team breakdowns broken down into each team video.
Yep. All right. Thank y'all. Thank you, Paperwaves, for joining. Had fun with you. So hopefully we'll see you again in the future. But that'll be it for this week. And have we found a team we're not sleeping on?
I like the Raiders.
Raiders. I like Raiders. I like Titans. But like I said,
I like Titans too. What's the Raiders win total?
I think
it's too high.
Yeah, I think it's too high. But we'll go through all of them again, and we'll choose one before week 1. Historically, we're really good at finding a team that is severely undervalued. So
yeah, Raiders win total 7.5. That's too high.
All right. He says Jags.
I think their win total is like 7.5 too.
Yeah, a lot of 7.5s this year. So, all right. Well, that'll do it. We'll see y'all a couple of weeks. And then the season's right around the corner.
Adios.
And when you knock us down, on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.